Hey guys. This is part 10 of What If Naruto Was the Heir of the Senju clan. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and don't forget to check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 31 Invasion. In the audience. He did it! Ino yelled excitedly as she raised her arms into the air and cheered loudly. Yes! Cried Kiba as he pumped his fist into their air. Well done, Naruto! Yamato thought with a smile, as he was quite proud of his student. Nice! Thought Kushina with a large smile. Naruto has certainly come a long way in a short time, Kurinai remarked. Yeah. I have to admit, there were moments where I thought he might actually lose, commented Asuma, who was impressed with how Naruto was able to use Hokage Shiki Jiju and Jutsu Kakuan Niten Sway Shu and suppress the Nibi. Unreal, Naruto did it, he defeated Yujito, again, said a wide-eyed Oma, while his blonde teammate Samui just stared down at the arena with a large frown. That was whack yo, said Killer Bee inside his mind, while still reeling over the shock that Naruto could use Mokuton. Things are going to be a lot harder for that boy Bee, now that he has revealed he can use Mokuton. Your brother and the other villages will most likely target him now, since he poses too much of a threat to them to be left alone, said Hachibi. You think? Replied Killer Bee sarcastically, since he knew his brother better than anyone and knew what he was probably thinking now. That boy, he needs to be dealt with, now, thought the Suna team sensei, who had a large angry frown on his face. Ho ho ho, it seems that I have won our bet and Rai-sama, said the fire daimyo with an amused smile when he saw the surprised look on his fellow daimyo's face. So it would seem, replied the lightning daimyo after getting over his surprise and now had an amused smile. You were indeed correct, Kasai-sama, that boy he is quite special, to think that he would have the same ability as the Shodai Hokage? Naruto is incredible, said Rurikayo with an excited look, since she couldn't believe how strong Naruto was. That he's quite a remarkable young man, added Madame Shurjimi with a large smile as she continued to clap for Naruto. Unbelievable, said Irika, who, like his fellow teachers, was shocked with what they had seen. I never dreamed that Naruto could be so strong, let alone he could use Mokuton like the Shodai Hokage. Yeah! Yelled Konohamaru, who was jumping up and down on his seat and cheering loudly. Nisan did it, he won! Did you see him use Mokuton, and how he used it to beat that girl? Asked Uda in amazement. Yeah, he was awesome, said one young boy. That Yujito girl was incredible too. Did you see how she used that strange chakra and nearly defeated him? Both of them are spectacular, said one young girl in awe. I told all of you that Naruto and I was awesome, shouted Konohamaru, who was ecstatic over Naruto's win and couldn't believe how strong his elder brother figure was. In the finalist box dash. I don't believe it, Senju beat Yujito, said a shocked Karui. Geez, what a troublesome fight, muttered Shikamaru as he looked over the destroyed arena and the two exhausted blondes, and was once again glad he forfeited his match. Shit, what do we do now? Asked a worried Kankuro in a low voice. If he gets near Gaara when the invasion starts he could, I know, interrupted Temari, who was also worried. But the plan can still work, look at how exhausted he is. All we have to do is keep him away from Gaara until he fully transforms. Once his transformation is complete, not even Senju will be able to stop him. Yeah, alright, replied Kankuro, who did not look entirely convinced and could tell that his sister doubted her own words as well. At the same time, while everyone else was talking, Sasuke, Gaara and Shino just stared down the arena, with their eyes trained on the panting Senju heir, in the Kage box dash. That boy, he's even more dangerous than we had imagined, thought the Raikage, who had a large frown on his face. Excellent, thought a disguised Orochimaru with evil smirk, who was quite pleased with how far Naruto had progressed since the Forest of Death. Well done, my boy, thought a smiling Sarutobi, who was very proud of his surrogate grandson and slowly clapped for him along with the rest of the cheering crowd. I only wish you were here to see this, Minato. You would be damn proud of your son, thought a smiling Jiraiya. Well done, Naruchan, I'm very proud of you, thought a beaming Tsunade. Zabuza and Haku were right about him, he is quite an interesting boy. The Mizukage thought with an intrigued look on her face as she joined in the Sandaime in slowly clapping for Naruto, In the arena down in the arena, Naruto could hear the audience chanting not only his name, but Yujito's as well, for a well-fought match. Among the chanting, Naruto could hear people yelling about how incredible their battle was and how amazing both he and Yujito were. He could even hear people calling their battle the greatest fight in the history of the Chunin exam. As the audience continued to applaud the two genin, Ginma turned to Naruto, who was slowly getting back onto his feet. "Hey kid, if it's possible, do you think could do something about these things?" The Tokubetsu Jonin asked as he pointed to the large wooden tentacles that covered most of the arena, and the wooden pillars around Yujito. "Since we can't really finish the exam with the arena covered in trees." Yeah, I think so," Naruto replied, where he formed a single ram seal and then placed his right hand on the ground and closed his eyes and began to concentrate, calling back the wooden tentacles and pillars and reabsorbed the chakra that he used to create them. After a few minutes, the wooden tentacles and pillars had sunk back into the ground and Naruto slowly stood back up. He had regained a small portion of his chakra, but was still very weak and tired. "Sorry, but that's all I can do," Naruto said as he looked at Ginma. "That's okay, we can handle the rest," the Tokubetsu Jonin replied with a small smirk, after which he watched Naruto walk over to Yujito, who was still lying on the ground but was now unbound. "That kid sure has amazing stamina. After a battle like that, I'm amazed he can even stand, let alone walk. Looks like I win again, Yujito-chan," Naruto said with a tired smile as he looked down at the blonde Kumo Kunoichi, who had a slightly annoyed and angry look on her face, since she was too weak to move after the Nibi chakra was forcibly suppressed. "Damn you, Naruto, you always seem to have a trick up your sleeve, don't you?" "Of course," answered the smirking Senju. "I wouldn't be much of a shinobi if I didn't." "How can you use Mokuton?" "I thought it was just a mutation, no one else your clan has ever had it before." "To be honest, I don't really know myself. Bloodline limits are funny that way, some people can have them, others can't." "Were you able to use it when we first fought?" "Yes." "So even back then you were holding back?" Yujito said with a frown and some anger in her voice. "I had no choice," Naruto replied. "Come on, Yujito, you know as well as I do why I had to. It's just like why I lied to you about who I really was. If I had revealed that I had Mokuton, you would have been obligated to tell your village, and you know exactly what would happen then." "I guess," Yujito said with a slightly ashamed look, since she knew Naruto was right and knew if she had been in his position she would have done the exact same thing. Since having Mokuton made Naruto a target for many groups and villages, including her own, given it powers and ability. But still, she was bothered by the fact that Naruto held back on her, since she was a proud kunoichi and did not like the fact that people held back on her when she fought them, since it made her feel weak. As if reading her mind, Naruto spoke again. "Look, even if I had used my Mokuton bloodline limit when we first fought, I doubt it would have helped much, since my skill in using it was limited at time. The fact is you're a strong kunoichi, Yujito, probably the strongest one I've ever fought, and the sole reason I learned Hokage Shiki Jiju and Jutsu Kakuan Niten Suishu was because I knew it was probably my best chance in defeating you." After Naruto said this, Yujito was left feeling a bit better with herself. Despite the fact that she had lost, she had given it her all and had nothing to be ashamed of. It also helped to know that Naruto had gone to such lengths to defeat her, proving that Naruto had given everything he had into this fight. "Do you want a hand getting up?" Naruto asked as he offered his hand to help the girl up. "Fine, but I want a rematch, and this time I'll beat you," Yujito replied, where she slowly lifted her hand up, so that Naruto could help her up. "Anytime," Naruto replied with another smirk, where he then reached down to grab the blonde girl's hand. But just as he was about to take hold of her hand, the events of the previous battle finally took their toll on him, as he suddenly felt his body go limp. "Crap," Naruto thought as he started to lose consciousness, and fell forward and tried to brace himself for when he hit the ground. But instead of hitting the hard ground, his head landed on something soft. "Since when did the ground feel like pillows?" Naruto mumbled as darkness took him. But unknown to the blonde boy, his face had just landed on a now blushing Yujito's right breast and his right hand on her left. "And are you two, get off me now!" said a bright red Yujito in a slow and low voice, with a mixture of anger and embarrassment. Now normally Yujito would have pushed Naruto off her and beaten him within an inch of his life. But given how weak her body was right now, she did not have the strength to move, let alone throw Naruto off her. 5 more minutes, Kachan," mumbled Naruto, unaware of his surroundings, snuggling deeper in between Yujito's bosoms and groped her left breast slightly, which made the blonde girl turn an even brighter shade of red. It was at this point that entire stadium burst into a loud laughter, as the audience could no longer hold it in. But none could laugh harder than a young Inuzuka boy and two senior kunoichi, one red-haired and one purple-haired, who were all on the floor in tears from laughing so hard at the scene. As she continued to laugh, Kushina openly said she wished she had brought a camera with her and memorials the scene, knowing the teasing material she would have on her student. At that moment, a mortified Yujito wanted nothing more than to be eaten by the ground, knowing that she would never live this down for as long as she lived. The only good thing about this situation was that the Nibby was not conscious at the moment. Knowing the monster cat, she would tease and annoy her with this scene for months to come, if not for the rest of her life. As the crowd continued to laugh, several female voices could be heard saying, "Naruto-kun, you cheat." But as loud of the audience laughter was, it was nothing compared to the booming voice of a certain blonde-haired Sanin, who yelled, "Naruto," and was heard by the entire village. Better than any alarm clock, the angry roar of his mother woke the spiky-haired boy up, where his eyes snapped open and he instinctively jumped onto his feet. "Whatever it is, I didn't do it," the panicking boy said quickly as he looked around for his mother, completely ignoring a crimson-faced Yujito lying below him. This, of course, only made the audience laugh even harder. Confused over why everyone was laughing, Naruto looked down at Yujito, who he finally noticed. "Is there something I'm missing?" the blonde boy asked, where he then noticed that Yujito was glaring angrily at him, but wasn't very intimidating given how she was still red from embarrassment. "Don't tell me you don't remember?" Genma asked with an amused grin. "Remember what?" Naruto asked with a confused look. "What's the last thing you remember when you blacked out?" My body went limp and I braced myself to hit the ground, but landed on something soft," Naruto replied before it hit him. When he was drifting in and out of unconsciousness, he remembered how his hand gripped onto something small, firm and soft, and the pillow underneath his head felt the same. Given how Yujito was lying underneath him, and her face was bright red, it didn't take a genius to figure what he had landed on. Oh no, Naruto thought in horror before turning a brighter shade of red than Yujito and would have put tomatoes to shame. But just when Naruto thought things couldn't get any worse, he suddenly heard a poof. When he turned to where the sound came from, he saw his mother marching towards him with a livid look on her face. "Crap, I'm dead," Naruto thought when he saw his mother make her way towards him like an angry giantess. "Ka-chan. It's not what you think, it was an accident, I swear," Naruto said quickly as he waved his hand up in denial. But his denials fell on deaf ears as Tsunade continued to march towards him, where she then grabbed his left ear and started to pull on it. "Ka-chan, what the hell are you doing?" screamed Naruto as his mother pulled on his left ear and began to drag him away. "I'm taking you to the medical ward to treat your injuries, and after that you and I are going to have another talk, since clearly the last one didn't work," rounded Tsunade as she continued to pull on her son's ear. "No son of mine is going to become a pervert." Ka-chan, stop it, I'm not a pervert, honestly," Naruto yelled as his mother continued to drag me away by the ear. "It was an accident, I swear." "Arg, Ka-chan, you're gonna pull my ear off." Seeing the Senju mother dragging her son away, the audience once again erupted in laughter and continued to laugh long after the two blondes left the arena. Later in the medical ward, 10 minutes after the spectacle in the arena, Naruto lay on one of the medical beds, with his mother standing over him on his right side, using Shozen Jutsu, Mystic Palm technique, to heal his injuries. When Tsunade first arrived with Naruto, the medics tried to take Naruto from her, saying that they could take care of him. But Tsunade would have none of it, stating that she would allow no one except Shizen or herself to treat Naruto's injuries. Assisting in the healing was Shizen, who was standing over Naruto on his left side. Shizen had arrived in the medical ward shortly after the two Senjus, carrying Naruto's tattered coat, along with his katana and sheath, which she had picked up after Tsunade dragged Naruto away. During the healing process, Naruto was forced to listen to his mother's rants about what happened at the end of the match. She even went on to rant that she did not go through 12 hours of labor, just to let him turn into a pervert like Jiraiya. As Tsunade continued to rant, Shizen just smirked, since she planned to tease Naruto later about what happened. Once Tsunade and Shizen had finished treating all of Naruto's injuries, the Senju matriarch looked down at her son. "So how do you feel, Naruto-chan?" Tsunade asked, ignoring the slightly annoyed look on her son's face, who was embarrassed over how his mother still called him Naruto-chan in front of people. "Fine, I guess, although I feel pretty tried." Well, that's to be expected, given how you barely had any chakra left in you, which is why you're going to rest for the remainder of the exam. But what about the final match? Asked Naruto. You'll have to forfeit, replied the blonde woman. What? Cried Naruto as he sat up, only to be pushed down by his mother. You heard me, you will not be fighting in the final match. You barely have enough chakra as it is. You need to let your body rest and recover from your battles, not to mention let the rest of your injuries heal naturally. Can I just take another food pill? No, Tsunade said forcefully as she crossed her arms underneath her ample bosom, making them seem almost bigger. Don't think I didn't see you take one before you fought that Tsunakunoichi. You know full well the effects food pills have when you take them consecutive times without giving your body time to recover. Although food pills were highly useful tools that replenished one's chakra and nourished their body, allowing the user to keep fighting for 3 days and 3 nights without rest. Like many things, it had a downside, which was that they would put extreme wear on the user's body, where they would suffer from severe exhaustion and be unable to do anything for a period of time. The effects would be made even worse if the person took multiple pills before recovering from the effects of the original pill. In some cases, shinobi were known to die from the after effects of taking multiple food pills, where their bodies or hearts simply gave out from the stress they were put under afterwards. He couldn't even use his chakra seals that Kushina had taught him since he hadn't had time to replenish the seals with chakra, due to all the training he had been doing for the past month. The Kyuubi's chakra was also out of the question, given how if he used it, it would reveal his status as a Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi. His mother had even stated clearly that he was only to use it if he was in a life or death situation. After being forbidden from using any more food pills, Naruto just moaned from annoyance, even though he understood where his mother was coming from in regards to food pills. He was still a bit annoyed over how he was being forced to quit, when he was just 1 match away from winning the Chunin exam. Can I at least go watch Sasuke and Gaara's match? Naruto asked. At first Tsunade did not answer and thought it over for about a minute or so before answering. I will allow it, but only if you promise that when your next match comes, you'll forfeit and not try to fight. Ka-chan. Naruto moaned. Promise me, repeated Tsunade with a serious look. Alright, I promise. Good, said the blonde woman with a nod. But if you break your promise and try to fight, not only will I stop the match, I will strap to this bed for the rest of the year. Naruto moaned from embarrassment. Don't mom me, young man, Tsunade scolded. Just because you're a shinobi now doesn't mean I can't ground you. When Tsunade said this, a snort of laughter was heard from the other end of the small room on Naruto's right. The snort, of course, came from the only other patient in the room, Yujito, who was being treated for her injuries by 2 medics. Yujito had naturally heard everything and couldn't help but laugh at how the mighty Senju Naruto could be brought to heal so easily by his mother. Naruto, of course, could only groan from humiliation and wish that this was all some kind of cruel nightmare and that he would wake up from at any moment. Thankfully, though, a distraction soon came, where the occupations of the room heard a disturbance coming from outside. Deciding to investigate, the 2 medics treating Yujito went out of the room. But before long the disturbance got louder, where they then heard a familiar male voice yell, "Step out of my space, before I plant my foot in your face." What the hell is going on out there? Swanda asked angrily before she and Shizen decided to go out and see what was happening. You two don't move, we'll be back in a minute. But just as the 2 female medics were leaving the room, Tsunade suddenly turned to look at Yujito, who was still lying on her bed. Oh, and before I forget, don't even think of trying to take advantage of my son now that he is helpless, said the slug princess sweetly. What? I would never do something like that, cried Yujito, who turned red again when Tsunade accused her of trying to take advantage of Naruto. I'm not interested in him. Good, see that you don't, otherwise, I will kill you, said the elder blonde with a sickly sweet smile that crept the female Jinchuriki out. After Tsunade and Shizen left, Yujito quickly turned to Naruto, who now had his right hand covering his eyes out of shame and embarrassment. She kidding, right? Knowing my mother, she was dead serious, Naruto replied as he turned to his fellow blonde. First Nibi, now Naruto's mother, why is it that everyone keeps thinking that I'm interested in him? The blonde girl thought in annoyance. Sorry about my Ka-chan, she can be a little overzealous at times. So I've noticed, Yujito replied dryly. Is she always like that? Mainly when it comes to things that involve me, answered the blonde boy. She obviously cares a great deal about you, Yujito remarked. Yeah, although there are times where she can be a bit smothering. Naruto replied. So you really are a mama's boys? Yujito said and smirked when she saw the blonde boy groan again and close his eyes out of embarrassment. Oh, don't call me that please, I get enough teasing from my Nachan. Besides, I like to see you do any better when you have a mother like mine, Naruto said, as he took the pillow from underneath him to cover his face from embarrassment. You should be grateful that you have a mother like her, who would do anything to make sure that you're safe, Yujito said. I guess, Naruto said, since he cared a great deal about his mother and knew she felt the same. So what's your mom like? Naruto asked, looking at his female friend. At this question Yujito didn't answer right away and just stared up at the ceiling with a blank look on her face, but before long she answered. I wouldn't really know, she died when I was about 2. Sorry, Naruto said with a shamed look over bringing up Yujito's dead mother. Nice going, Baka. It's fine, you didn't know, Yujito replied without any emotions, all the while looking up at the ceiling. What about your dad? Dead, he died when I was 9. Yujito said a little quicker, although continued to stare up at the ceiling. Sorry, Naruto said again, while silently cursing himself again for asking about her father. Damn it, can I do nothing right? It's okay, but what about your dad? Yujito said, where she then turned to Naruto. But before Naruto could respond to the question, the two blondes suddenly heard Tsunade's voice from outside the room. I don't care if you are her sensei. She's still recovering from her injuries, so go back to your seat and… What the hell do you think you're staring at? Shouted the female Senju before a loud bang and crash was heard and several voices were heard shouting. Sensei! When the door opened again, an angry-looking Tsunade entered, dusting her hands off and muttering about how perverts were as bad as cockroaches, since no matter how many she smashed, there were always more of them. Curious, Yujito and Naruto lifted their heads up to look through the open door and peered behind Tsunade to see what happened. When they looked outside, they saw Samui, Omoi, Karui and some medics trying to pull a man out of a wall by his legs, who had somehow ended up with the upper half of his body stuck inside the hallway wall. Now then, where were we? Tsunade asked, with a smile that was far too sweet, as she closed the door behind her and Shizen, resulting in both Naruto and Yujito to have large sweat drops on the back of their heads. I'm starting to understand why Naruto is so scared of her, Yujito thought, while making a note to herself to try and stay on the slug princess's good side. 20 minutes later, after finally being treated, the two blonde teens slowly made their way to the finalist's box. Both genin looked fairly worn given the tired look on their faces and how slowly they were moving. Not to mention the state of their clothes, even the coat that Jiraiya gave Naruto before the finals, which he was now wearing again along with his katana, was in tatters and covered in dirt from his battle with Yujito. Killer Bee and the others had already returned to their seats, not wanting to incur the slug princess' wrath any further. Tsunade and Shizen had also returned to their seats, but before they left, Tsunade made sure to remind Naruto of his promise to forfeit his match when his turn came. She even went on to say that she would not stand for any more hanky-panky between the two of them. Naturally, both blondes turned bright red from embarrassment at the accusation and fervently denied that they had such a relationship. But Tsunade did not seem convinced, and said she would be watching them both closely. As Naruto and Yujito made their way to the finalists' box, the two blondes talked about their match and complimented each other on how much they had each improved since they last fought. But as they continued to talk, they suddenly heard the screams of two men. Quickly the two blondes made their way down the hall and turned to their left. When they turned, they saw the Kusachun and Midori, who threatened Yujito before their match, being dragged back into another hallway by a large amount of sand. Seeing the two genin, Midori turned to them and yelled, "Help! Stop! Stop!" as the sand continued to pull him into the other hallway. Before Naruto could even try to save the man, Yujito held out her arm in front of him, stopping him from moving, and shook her head. She knew it was already too late for him and that there was nothing they could do, especially in their weakened state. Seconds later they heard one last loud scream from Midori from the hallway before there was nothing but silence. Shortly after they heard the sounds of footsteps echo through the hallway, and before long a person emerged from it. The person was none other than Sabaka no Gaara, who slowly walked out from the hallway. When Gaara emerged from the dark hallway, either Yujito or Naruto were surprised to see him, since they already knew who was behind what had happened when they saw the sand drag Midori away. After Gaara appeared, the red-headed boy turned to the two blondes and stared at both of them, not wanting to show any fear. Both teens stared back at Gaara and made sure to keep faces expressionless. After about a minute or so of staring at the two blondes, Gaara turned away and made his way to the stairs, which were right in front of him. But before slowly moving down the stairs to the arena, he spared one last glance at Naruto. In that moment no words were exchanged, as there was no need to, since the look Gaara gave the Senju heir said it all. "You're next." Once Gaara was gone, Yujito let out a breath that she did not realize she was holding. Nibi and Hachibi were right, that guy is dangerous. I've never seen anyone kill like that without hesitation or remorse, not even B-sensei is like that. He really is a monster. He really has become a living weapon. Naruto thought as he remembered what he had learned about Jinchuriki, and how some villages tried to turn them into living weapons without any emotions. "What do you think made him kill them?" Naruto asked, breaking the silence between the two of them. "If I were to guess, I would say that they tried to intimidate him into losing his match, like they did with us." "Fatal mistake," Naruto muttered as he could not help but pity the poor fools. "Guess they didn't learn their lesson when they confronted us. We better get going. If that Gaara guy is heading down to the arena, then his match must be about to start," Yujito said after gaining Naruto's attention. Nodding to this, Naruto then made his way up to the finalists' box with Yujito. In the Kage, as the events between the three Jinchuriki were happening, the Yonkage, for shadows, were just finishing discussing Yujito and Naruto's match. It was also at this moment that Tsunade appeared in a whirl of leaves after using a Shunshin body flicker. "Ah, Tsunade, I'm pleased to see you. How is Naruto-kun?" the Sandaime Hokage asked as he turned to his former female student. "He's fine, most of his wounds were just superficial. Right now he's just tired from using so much chakra." "Yes, that's perfectly understandable," answered the old Hokage with a nod. "And what of Yujito?" asked the Raikage. "She should be fine as well. Like Naruchan, her wounds are mostly superficial and just needs to rest for a while to recover her strength." After hearing this, the Raikage nodded, pleased that Yujito would recover without incident. But even so, it did not settle his concerns about Naruto and his recently revealed Mokuton powers. "I'm sure the brat will be fine. If not, I'm sure there are plenty of young girls here who are willing to help take care of him," Jiraiya said with a cheesy grin. "Barely even in his teens and he already has dozens of girls after him. I'm so proud," Jiraiya thought with anime tears of joy. But his joy over his godson popularity with the girls quickly ended when he heard the familiar sounds of knuckles cracking. When he turned, he saw Tsunade slowly cracking her knuckles and glaring at him in a way that made the Gamma Sanin feel like he should cover her privates and back away. Eventually, though, Tsunade turned from Jiraiya to her former sensei, but not before giving the super pervert one final glare. "So what were you all talking about before I arrived?" the Senju matriarch asked. "The other Kages and I were just discussing whether or not to recommend Naruto-kun and young Yujito to become Chunin," answered the Sandaime. "And what did you decide?" "Well, given their rather explosive battle and the ways they fought and overcame their opponents in their previous matches, we've decided to recommend both of them to be Chunin," the Mizukage replied. "Yes," added Sarutobi. "Both Yujito and Naruto-kun showed remarkable skill and talent in their battle, far exceeding most genin. They also showed impressive resourcefulness, adaptability, and analyzing skills in their earlier battles, where Yujito overcame her opponent's Kirigakure no Jutsu, hidden miss technique, and size-ink creatures. Naruto also came up with unique and inventive ways to use his opponent's own strengths against them. Both of them have potential to make fine Chunin." After hearing this, Tsunade just smiled, even though Naruto was disappointed with her forbidding him from entering the final match. She knew that the news of him becoming a Chunin would more than make up for it. The finalist box, as the remaining members of the finalists waited for Sasuke and Gaara's match to begin, they saw Yujito and Naruto walk up the stairs from the lower levels. "Geez, you two are back already," Shikamaru said when he saw the two blondes. "I thought the both of you would be out of action after what you did." "Try not to sound too disappointed, Shikamaru," Naruto said with a amused smile. "TSK, I just thought that with you out of action, Sasuke and Gaara's match would be the last match, and this troublesome exam would finally be over." Upon hearing this, Naruto just smiled out of amusement, since that was typical Shikamaru. But before he could respond to the young Nara's comment, Karui suddenly spoke up. "Hey Yujito, you okay?" "Yes, I'm fine, just a bit weak from the battle," answered the blonde Kunoichi. "Did he try anything on you while you were recovering?" Karui asked as she glared over at the Senju. "B-sensei and the rest of us tried to get in, but Senju's mother wouldn't let us by and smashed sensei into a wall when she caught him staring at her breasts." "I should have known?" thought Yujito as she shook her head from embarrassment after hearing why Tsunade had smashed her teacher into a wall. Hey, what's that supposed to mean, Karui? Naruto asked in annoyance when he heard Karui ask Yujito if he tried anything on her. You know damn well what I meant, Senju. I always knew you were a pervert, accused Karui. I am no pervert, Naruto retorted angrily since he did not like being called one. Ha, that's funny coming from you after what you just did to Yujito, not to mention Samui before that. Both those were complete accidents, a now red-faced Naruto said, given how he was still quite embarrassed over those two incidents. It's not like I meant those things to happen. The argument of course would have continued had Yujito not intervened, and told Karui to drop it. Obeying her teammates' wishes, Karui dropped the subject, although did spare an annoyed glare at Naruto before turning to look down at the arena where Sasuke was standing, who had jumped down into the arena earlier after his name was called and waited for Gaara to appear, who was slowly making his way down the stairs. When Naruto turned to look at the arena, he saw that it had been renewed and was almost exactly the way it was before the finals started. It was of course obvious that during the time he and Yujito were being treated, someone had used some Doton ninjutsu to make the arena floor flat again, as well as to remove the rubble from the ruined arena wall, which still had the holes and gaps in it from the previous battles. When Naruto finished looking over the renewed arena, Gaara finally emerged from below the stairway and into the arena. As Gaara made his way over to Sasuke and Genma, Shikamaru suddenly turned to Naruto. So who do you think will win, Sasuke? I can't be 100% certain, but if I were to guess I would say that Sasuke will lose, Naruto answered. Seriously? Asked Shikamaru as he turned to Naruto as surprised since Sasuke was one of the strongest people in their year, second only to Naruto, given what he saw the Senju heir do in his last fight. He of course knew that Gaara would have an advantage over Sasuke since he had yet to fight, given how all his opponents forfeited. But to hear Naruto say so bluntly that Sasuke would lose was still surprising. I agree with Senju-san, Shino said suddenly, who had been standing near the two Konoha genin and overheard what they were talking about. Sabaku no Gaara is more dangerous than you can imagine. After hearing Shino agreeing with Naruto, even Shikamaru was beginning to doubt Sasuke's chances of winning, especially when he remembered how Gaara dealt with that Nin in the preliminaries. What do you think, Yujito? Karui asked as she looked at her teammate. I agree as well, Sabaku no Gaara is extremely dangerous, especially since he is like me. You mean? Karui asked in surprise and looked at her friend, who just nodded in confirmation. After learning of what Gaara really was, Karui stared down at the red-headed boy with a concerned look. In the arena once both Sasuke and Gaara were in the arena, Genma eyed both genin careful. Sasuke looked eager to fight and was loosening himself up, while Gaara just stared at him with a bloodthirsty look. After Genma said begin, the Tokubetsu Jonin quickly jumped away, since he had learned firsthand from previous battles not to underestimate the genin from this year's exam. Once Genma official began the match, Gaara slowly drew his sand out from his gourd, causing Sasuke to jump back a bit, knowing how dangerous Gaara was when he released his sand. But as soon as Gaara released the sand from his gourd, he suddenly felt intense pain coming from his head and held it in his right hand, after which he began to mutter to himself, asking his mother not to get so mad at him and to forgive him. Hearing Gaara muttering, Sasuke could only stare in disbelief at the strange boy and wonder what he was talking about. But before he could ponder on what was happening any further, Gaara suddenly settled down and told Sasuke to come at him. Not one to back down from a challenge, Sasuke quickly took out two shuriken from his leg pouch and threw them at Gaara, who caught them with his sand shield after he had his sand turn into a clone of himself. Seeing this, Sasuke immediately raced toward Gaara, but after only taking 2 steps, Gaara's clone unleashed a massive blast of sand at the Uchiha, forcing Sasuke to jump up into the air to avoid it. But as he hung in midair, Gaara's clone threw the 2 shuriken that it caught earlier back at Sasuke, forcing the raven-haired boy to take out 2 more and use them to deflect the incoming shuriken. After deflecting the shuriken, Sasuke fell towards the clone and delivered a powerful spin kick to it, which the clone blocked before pushing the dark-haired boy away, recovering quickly. Sasuke then delivered a strong backhand to the clone's jugular. But as soon as his hand connected with the clone, the sand started to wrap itself around Sasuke's arm. Realizing what was happening, Sasuke immediately hit the clone in the face with a strong punch in the face, destroying the clone and causing it to revert back into sand, leaving Gaara now open to attack. Not wanting to waste an opportunity to gain the advantage, Sasuke immediately closed in on the Tsunade and attempted a forward punch to the face. But before his fist could even come close to connecting, Gaara-san moved in between them and blocked Sasuke's punch. After blocking Sasuke's punch, Gaara-san quickly moved around the young Uchiha and attempted to envelope him from all sides. But before it could close in on raven-haired boy, he disappeared in a blurred eye, and that instant a shocked looks appeared on everyone's faces, where many, including a certain spiky-haired blonde and bushy-haired boy, were having a sudden flash of déjà vu from the preliminaries. After Sasuke disappeared, Gaara quickly turned around to try and find him, only to be sent flying across the ground by a powerful right hook to the face from Sasuke. In the finalist box dash. Unreal, he's moving almost as fast as that Lee guy without his weights, said Shikamaru in surprise. It's not just that, he's also mimicking Lee movements, Naruto said, who was just as surprised as Shikamaru. He even recognized some of Sasuke's moves since he had been on the receiving end of such a punch when he fought Lee a month ago in the arena dash. Looks like my punch wasn't as effective as I thought, the Uchiha Heir thought, when he saw cracks appear around Gaara's face as he slowly got back onto his feet. Figuring that Gaara also covered his body in sand, to act like armor and protect him from any damage. Enter Naruto OST Beautiful Green Wild Beast. Seeing that his attack did little damage, Sasuke finally activated his Sharingan and charged head-on at Gaara with an impressive burst of speed. Acting quickly, Gaara brought his sand up to capture the Uchiha, but like earlier, before the sand could reach Sasuke, the raven-haired boy disappeared in a blur and reappeared behind the Tsunade. Seeing that Sasuke was now behind him again, Gaara immediately had his remaining sand move towards the Uchiha, who then maneuvered around it, and inside Gaara's safe zone, where he delivered sharp kick to the red-haired boy's stomach, sending him flying into the air and crashing onto the ground. What's wrong? Don't tell me that's all you got, Sasuke asked with a confident smirk as he looked at Gaara, who was getting back onto his feet and glaring at the dark-haired boy. If I have to, I'll tear that armor of yours piece by piece. With another burst of high speed, Sasuke moved toward Gaara and began to circle around him in high speed, making it impossible for Gaara's sand to lock on him. Realizing that his sand couldn't keep up with Sasuke's newfound speed, Gaara had his sand move around him defensive position, so that he could block an attack from any direction. But before his defense could be fully formed, Sasuke once again maneuvered past Gaara's sand and inside his safe zone. After which he then dealt a sharp kick to the side of the redhead's face, causing him to fall back. But before he could hit the ground, Sasuke grabbed hold of his clothing and pulled him back, where he delivered a strong knee to the gut, causing Gaara to fall to knees in pain. When Gaara fell to his knees, Sasuke quickly jumped back, putting some distance between him and the Tsunade, where he then began to pant slightly. And Naruto OST Beautiful Green Wild Beast in the finalist box dash. Looks like the Uchiha is better than I originally believed, thought an impressed Yujito. But it seems that moving at that speed has taken a good bit out of him. Just as I thought, Naruto thought to himself. Sasuke probably used his Sharingan to mimic Bushibrow's speed and movements when he watched him fight me. But he can only maintain that level of speed for a short period of time, and even then it takes a lot out of him, since he doesn't have the same level of stamina as Bushibrow, who trained his body for years to reach that level. Looks like you were wrong about the Uchiha Senju. He's wiping the floor with that Gaara guy, said Karui smugly. I'll admit, I underestimated Sasuke a good bit, but that doesn't mean that I am wrong about Gaara. Trust me, we've yet to see his real power, replied Naruto, where he then glanced over at Kankuro and Temari, who both had concerned looks on their faces. What are you planning to do now, Gaara? Kankuro thought, as he stared down at his younger brother who was now on his knees. The Suna no Yoroi, armor of sand, uses too much chakra, it won't last much longer. Gaara, thought a worried Temari before glancing up at her father, wondering why he hadn't signaled the invasion to begin already. In the audience dash, not bad, remarked Kuratsuchi with a slightly impressed look. I give the Uchiha this, he isn't half bad, thought Mai, who was intrigued with how quickly Sasuke had improved his speed and taijutsu. To think he could achieve that level of speed and mimic Lee's moves so well in just 1 month, it's incredible, thought a surprised guy. Sasuke-san, thought Lee, who was just as surprised as his teacher. Sasuke-kun is incredible, Sakura yelled ecstatically after seeing the Uchiha kicking Gaara around. No kidding, said Choji in awe. Yeah, but he's still nowhere near as cool as Naruto-kun, replied Ino, which immediately started a heated argument between her and Sakura, with poor Choji stuck in the middle. What kind of training did you make him go through? Kurina asked when she turned to Kakashi. I wouldn't mind knowing that either. How can Sasuke move with that level of speed after training for only 1 month? Asuma asked, who was just as surprised as everyone else. Sasuke copied Lee's movements and fighting moves with his Sharingan back when he had the little scuffle with Lee before the first exam. I then later trained him in taijutsu so that he could get used to moving at that level of speed. I figured as much, said Kushina suddenly, since it's the only possible way he could improve his speed and taijutsu so quickly. But taijutsu alone won't be enough to defeat that Gaara kid and his sand. I'm well aware of that, Kushina-senpai, replied Kakashi with a knowing look. Seeing this, Kushina frowned slightly and thought, what are you up to, Kakashi, and what else did you teach Sasuke? In the finalist box, as the finalists watched Sasuke and Gaara, they saw Gaara slowly get back onto his feet and form a tiger seal. After which the sand around him started to hover around him and form a large sphere of sand. What's he up to? Shikamaru asked. Nothing good, Naruto replied with a frown. That's Gaara's. A fearful Kankuro thought as he recognized the sand sphere. Is he planning on using that technique? Maybe we should get out of here. There's no doubt he's planning on using that technique, a frightened Temari thought. This is not good, damn it Gaara, have you completely forgotten the plan? It's too soon. In the audience dash. This is absurd, Baki thought angrily. That little idiot Gaara, we don't know when the signal will be given. In the arena, when Sasuke saw the sand sphere forming around his opponent, the Uchiha quickly realized he needed to do something before the sphere was completed. Racing at top speed, Sasuke quickly reached Gaara. But just as he was about to punch the sand sphere, he came to a dead stop, which was just in the nick of time, as several sand spears appeared out of the sphere and would have impaled him had he not stopped when he did. After jumping away from the sand sphere, the sand spears quickly retreated back into the sphere. At the same time, a small eyeball made out of sand formed above the sand sphere and stared directly at Sasuke. For the next few minutes, Sasuke attempted a series of attacks using shuriken, kunai, and taijutsu from multiple different directions. But even with his enhanced speed, each and every one of his attacks failed to penetrate the hardened sand sphere, and he was forced to move away because of the sand spears that emerged from the sphere. Looks like nothing works, none of my attacks can penetrate his defense, he's completely shut himself in, Sasuke thought. But that could be a good thing for me since he can't attack, and that gives me time to prepare my new move, which takes some time and is probably the only thing that can pierce his defense. Knowing what he needed to do, Sasuke quickly preformed a series of back flips and then made his way up along one of the undamaged sides of the arena wall. Once he reached the highest point of the wall, he unbuckled some of the straps on his left arm and started to form 12 separate hand seals. After he performed the hand seal, he then held his left hand in his right and started to channel his chakra into it. Enter Naruto Osteiraikiri. As the chakra formed in his hand, it turned into lightning, covering his entire left hand and becoming visible to everyone in the audience. As the lightning in Sasuke's hand grew, a loud chirping noise could be heard coming from the lightning technique. Once the technique was ready, Sasuke raced forward where the excess energy from the lightning technique tore up the wall as he ran down it and headed straight for Gaara's sand sphere. In the finalist box dash. What is that? Thought Kankuro, Temari, Shikamaru, Shino, and Kairi together. Is that what I think it is? Naruto thought in recognition. Could that be? Thought Yujito, who like Naruto recognized the technique from stories she had heard from other Kumo shinobi about the famed copycat nin Hatake Kakashi. In the audience dash. I don't believe it, Guy said in disbelief. Kakashi actually taught Sasuke that technique. Guy-sensei, do you know what that technique is? Niji asked, as he had never seen a jutsu like this before in his life. Yes, I do, replied the elder man with a large frown and a serious look on his face, which was highly unusual for his students to see. To think that a boy his age could use such a technique, he's just like the Senju heir. This is the power of the Uchiha clan. That technique it can't be, said a wide-eyed Zabuza, who was actually sweating a little. It is, replied Haku, who like her sensei knew the technique Sasuke was using, since it was not a technique that either one of them could forget. You actually taught him that technique? A shocked Yamato asked as he turned to his former ANBU captain. I did. But why? You know how dangerous that technique is, even more for someone like you. I taught him the technique, because he is like me. I see now, the reason why you focus so much on his taijutsu is because you wanted to increase his speed and stamina to the point that he could handle using the technique, said Kushina after realizing what Kakashi had done. Correct, the copy nin replied with an eye smile, which quickly faded after a glare from Kushina, who told him that was still not a good enough excuse for being so late and for holding up the exam. This then made the silver-haired Jonin sigh with weariness and thought, I just can't win with her. Amazing, I can see the chakra clearly with my own eyes, said a stunned Sakura. What is it? Ino asked. Better yet, why is it making all that noise? Kiba asked as he held his ears in pain, as it was hard on his sensitive hearing. It's simply a straight trust, answered Kushina, gaining the genin's attention. It's Kakashi's only original move, a secret technique that is so powerful that it is classified as an A-rank assassination technique. It relays on the speed and power of the user's trust, as well as the amount of chakra that they can generate. The technique involves the user channeling a large amount of chakra into their arm and converting it into lightning. When you combine all these things, it turns the user's arm into a sword that can pierce through anything. Also, because of the increased speed the user moves at, it makes a loud chirping noise that sounds like a large group of birds, which is what gives the technique its name Chidori, 1,000 birds. After Kushina finished explaining the technique to the genin, Sasuke finally reached Gaara and used his Chidori to pierce through his sand sphere, and Naruto Oestirikiri in the finalist box dash. And then no way, said a stunned Kankuro who was starting to sweat in fear. Gaara's absolute defense has been, this can be real, said a shocked Temari who still couldn't believe her eyes. I can't believe Kakashi-sensei actually taught Sasuke Chidori, Naruto thought in surprise. There's no doubt about it that Hatake Kakashi famed Chidori. Yujito thought in disbelief at Sasuke actually using it to pierce Gaara's defense. What is that technique? Karui thought, who had never seen a lightning technique like that before. Unreal, muttered Shikamaru. In the audience dash, impossible, said Baki, who couldn't believe that a mere Konoha genin could do what no Suna shinobi had ever done before, pierce Gaara's impenetrable defense in the Kage box dash. That's Hatake Kakashi's technique, thought both the Hokage and the Raikage together. Very good, thought the disguised Orochimaru, who was quite pleased with Sasuke's increased skill. Mai commented the Mizukage in surprise, as like the other Kages she recognized Kakashi famed lightning technique. Shit, Kakashi actually though the brat that move, Jiraiya thought with a frown, although at the same time he couldn't fault the copying. Since his student was going up against a psychopathic Jinchuriki, and he would need something powerful not only to pierce his sand defense, but to survive as well. Tsunade on the other hand remained silent, and just stared down at Gaara and the Uchiha with a large frown on her face. In the audience dash. All right, yelled Kiba. He cut right through that sand ball like a knife through butter. Of course, said Kushina with a small smirk. Chidori a serious technique and is not something you can take lightly. Kakashi even has a more advanced technique called Raikiri, lightning cutter, which earned its name after Kakashi cut through a bolt of lightning. Huh, cut through lightning? Ino thought with a disbelieving look. That sounds so fake. Sakura thought. Choji on the other hand looked over at Kakashi in awe and thought, TTH, that's incredible. Yeah, right, these old people and their stories. Kiba thought, who like the girls didn't believe the former red-headed ANBU captain. But still, I have to admit that is one badass jutsu. Sasuke's got this match in the bag with a technique like that. In the arena sitting inside his sand sphere, Gaara was trying to understand the warm sensation he was feeling from his arm. It was then, when he suddenly felt a small drop of blood fall on his arm, that he finally understood what he was feeling and let out a horrified scream that could be heard throughout the stadium. Blood! My blood! When the Temari and Kankuro heard their brother's screams of horror, both became fearful of what would happen next, as nothing like this had ever happened before. Gaara had been wounded. After hearing Gaara's screams, Sasuke tried to pull his arm from the sand sphere, but found he could not. It was as if something was holding onto it. Realizing that he needed to do something before his arm was pulled off, Sasuke channeled more lightning chakra from his arm into Gaara. This caused the red-haired Jinchuriki to scream out in pain from the lightning as it traveled throughout his body. Eventually Sasuke finally freed his arm, but as soon as he pulled his arm out from the sand sphere, a long yellow demonic-looking arm with strange markings on it came out with Sasuke's arm. In the finalist box dash. Shit, is that what I think it is? Karui yelled in fear. It is, said Yujito, was already fearful of what would happen. If he loses himself to his Biju, he'll destroy the entire arena and kill everyone in it. Damn it, this isn't good. Naruto thought as he was afraid of something like this happening. This is worse than I had imagined, thought a fearful Shino, who was now pale white with fear. What is he? Asked a horrified Shikamaru. It his arm, thought a frightened Kankuro after seeing the demonic arm emerge from the sand sphere. Did he change into his complete possession form? I don't know, replied a now very worried Temari. All we know is that he has been wound. This has never happened before. In the audience dash. This was not what was supposed to happen, said a fearful Baki, who was sweating heavily with fear. He really is a monster, Kiba said fearfully after seeing the demonic arm erupt from the sand sphere. Kakashi-sensei, what's going on? Asked Sakura, who was worried for Sasuke's safety. Asuma-sensei? Asked both Ino and Choji. Instead of answer their student's question, the Jonin shinobi just stared down at the arena with concerned looks on their faces. This is the worst possible situation, Yamato thought. Fuck, I was afraid this would happen, that Tsuna brat has lost it. We may have to intervene before he loses controls and destroy the entire stadium. A worried Kushina thought. This is crazy, that brat is a Jinchuriki too. What the hell are the Kages thinking letting two Jinchuriki compete in the same exam, especially an insane one like him? Zabuza thought, who knew what this could mean? This is bad, yo, muttered Killer Bee. Yes, I know, I can sense Shikaku's power and bloodlust rising in the boy. If this continues, I fear we may have to step in, as neither Yujito nor Naruto have the strength to stop him after their battle. If Shikaku is allowed to run free, he will destroy this entire stadium along with everyone in it, said Hachibi. Can't you talk him down, yo? Asked B. I'm afraid not. Shikaku will stop at nothing when he is like this. Even if he was willing to talk to me, I don't think he would listen to me, since he refuses to speak to any of us Biju for many years. Feuds in the family ain't never right. B replied. In the arena after Sasuke freed his arm, the demonic arm quickly retreated back into the sand sphere. Shit! What the hell was that? It nearly ripped my arm off, Sasuke thought as he held his arm and stared into the hole that his Chidori made in the sand sphere. As he stared into the hole, he heard a demonic-like growl from the sphere and then saw something move inside the sphere, something that didn't look human. When Sasuke peered deeper into the dark hole, a cold sweat fell down his face and back. Before he could even comment to himself on what he had just seen, Sasuke suddenly saw a demonic-looking yellow eye filled with bloodlust looking straight at him through the hole. After which a large burst of power was felt by everyone in the stadium, causing the majority of people to shiver in fear. Shortly after, the sand sphere began to crack, before finally reverting into sand, revealing an injured Gaara panting heavily and holding his bleeding shoulder. Soon after, Gaara looked up at Sasuke and glared at him with pure hatred for what he had just done. What's going on? What were those eyes I just saw a moment ago? What was that power I felt? Sasuke thought, as none of this was making any sense to him. Before Sasuke could even try, he suddenly saw white feathers falling from the sky. In the finalists' box, like Sasuke, Naruto, and the other Chunin candidates noticed the white feathers falling from the sky and were starting to make them feel drowsy. Shit, Genjutsu, Naruto thought, realizing what was happening to him before using the Genjutsu Kai, illusionary technique release, to free himself from the effects of the Genjutsu. Yujito and the other also quickly followed his example and used the Genjutsu Kai to free themselves from the Genjutsu. After which they looked up to the audience, and could see that they weren't the only ones who were being affected by the illusion. The operation has begun, Temari and Kankuro thought together. In the audience dash. Kushina-senpai, this is, said Yamato as he felt the Genjutsu beginning to affect him. Yeah, I know someone is casting a Genjutsu. It's Nihon Shoujo no Jutsu, Temple of Nirvana technique, said Kurinai, who recognized the powerful Genjutsu technique. As soon as they realized that someone was casting a powerful Genjutsu to put everyone in the stadium to sleep. The veteran shinobi, along with all the other shinobi who realized what was happening, used Genjutsu Kai to free themselves from the effects of the illusion. Even some of the more skilled genin like Sakura, Hinata, Mai, Team 9, aka Team Guy, the Kumo and Kiri genin were able to free themselves from the Genjutsu by dispelling it in time. A Genjutsu? Is Kabuto finally on the move? Baki thought when he saw the falling white feathers and dispelled the illusion. The invasion has finally begun. In the Kage box dash, seeing the white feathers falling down on arena, the Sonkages, 3 Kages, and the 2 Sanin immediately realized that something was amiss. But before any of them could even say anything, the Yondaime Kazekage suddenly spoke. Let us begin. As soon as he said this, the Kazekage's 2 guards pulled the pins on 2 smoke grenades, causing the Kage box to erupt in smoke. Outsides, the village currently hidden just outside Konoha, hidden leaves, a small army made up of hundreds of Suna and Oto shinobi waited for the signal that would begin their attack. For the past few hours the small army of shinobi stayed hidden in the forestry that surrounded Konoha. It had of course not been easy due to the large number of ANBU patrols that nearly discovered some of the shinobi teams. It was made even harder due to the long wait, as many shinobi were feeling anxious for the battle to begin and could barely stand waiting. Some had even begun to worry that their attack had been found out and that the Konoha shinobi were ready for them. But finally, after several hours of waiting, the signal had appeared and a large explosion erupted from the Chunin Stadium. Upon seeing the smoke from the arena, the two shinobi forces went into action and moved towards Konoha. At the same time, in a hidden location in the forest, several Suna and Oto shinobi surrounded several different summoning circles, which were placed around Konoha, each with a scroll in their hand. Once they had gathered the necessary amount of chakra, and had each done the necessary hand seals, they quickly slammed their hands on the ground and cried out, "Kuchios no Jutsu, summoning technique!" After which an explosion erupted and a large cloud of smoke appeared at Konoha's outer wall. Minutes before the signal, currently standing stationed on one of the lookout towers on the wall, two bored-looking Chunin stood guard. Every now and again the two Chunin would turn in the direction of the stadium with longing looks, especially whenever they heard the loud cheers of the audience. The first Chunin was of average height and had short brown shoulder-length hair that helped frame his face. He wore the standard green flak jacket and uniform of a typically Konoha nin, and wore his headband around his head like most shinobi. The second Chunin was a middle-aged man, with brown eyes, short, brown spiky hair and beard. Like his counterpart, his attire consisted of the standard Konoha shinobi uniform. "Man, we've got to be the two unluckiest guys in Konoha to be posted on guard duty today," moaned the younger of the two Chunin. "I really wanted to see the Chunin exam." "Don't complain, there'll be another one in 6 months' time," replied the bearded Chunin. "You'll have plenty of other chances to watch them then." "Yeah, but this time Tsunade-sama's son Senju Naruto and the last Uchiha Sasuke are participating," answered the first Chunin. "When will I ever get another chance to see a match like that? I've even heard that a member of the Hyuga clan, who is said to be really gifted, is in it, as well as some of the most talented genin in Kumo, Kiri and Suna." "Seriously?" asked the bearded man in surprise. "Seriously, and my money is on that the finals will end with the Senju and the Uchiha heirs facing off against one another," said the younger Chunin. "The match of the decade, and I'm missing it. I'm going to regret this for the rest of my life." Enter Naruto OST. Heavy violence. Before the elder Chunin could even reply to his friend's statement, the two Chunin suddenly heard a large explosion coming from the stadium. "What the?" said the younger Chunin in surprise as he turned in the direction of the stadium. "It came from the stadium. Something must be happening," said the bearded Chunin, but before his partner could even respond to this, the two Chunin felt another explosion coming from outside the village. When the Chunin turned and looked in the direction from where the explosion came from, they saw a large cloud of smoke in the distance. Seconds later, a giant three-headed snake appeared out of the smoke and quickly made its way towards them. "Giant snakes!" the younger Chunin shouted in surprise when he saw the three-headed summons. "We need to tell the Hokage-sama what is happening now," said the older Chunin, but before he or his partner could do anything, the giant snake reached them and crushed the watchtower with them inside. After destroying the watchtower, the giant three-headed snake made its way inside the village. This was of course not the only incident. At the same time, at different points around the village, 3 more three-headed snake summons appeared outside the village and broke through the village outer wall. Naturally, upon seeing the giant snakes, the other shinobi guards tried to stop the summons from entering their village. But despite their best efforts, the Konoha defenders proved no match for the giant reptiles and were instead pushed back themselves. As the Konoha shinobi tried to contain the creatures, they soon found themselves under attack by Suna and Oto shinobi, who were now entering the village in large numbers through the massive holes that the snakes made when they broke through the wall. In the stadium stands "Shit, the Hokage!" cried Kushina when she and the other Konoha nins saw the explosion in the Kage box. "Leave the Hokage to us, Kushina," spoke the ANBU commander as he and his two teams leaped to the Kage box. "Right," said Kushina, who knew that it was best to leave the Hokage to the ANBU. In the Kage box "Fuck!" yelled Jiraiya as he rubbed his eyes after the flash from the grenades and tried to see through the smoke. "Sarutobi-sensei!" cried Tsunade as she blindly made her way through the smoke to her former teacher. "Kazekage-sama, what is the meaning of this?" spoke the Sandaime as he turned to his counterpart from Suna. At the same time the ANBU commander and his two squads arrived, where the commander quickly ordered the first team to follow him to help the Hokage, and had the second team go down to the stands below them and protect the fire daimyo and other visiting lords. As soon as the other team left, the ANBU commander and his team came under attack from the Kazekage's guards who appeared out of the smoke. The guards were of course easily dispatched by the ANBU commander, who skillfully sliced them both in two with his kunai. "Hokage-sama!" shouted Rado as he moved next to the old Hokage, but as soon as he did he was stabbed in the chest by two kunai from an unknown assailant. Before falling unconscious from his injuries, the Tokubetsu told the old Hokage to run. Seeing what happened to Rado, Jiraiya and Tsunade moved over to their former teacher. But just as they reached him, the Kazekage appeared behind him, holding a kunai to the old man's throat. He then jumped up into the air with the Hokage and onto the rooftop, causing the two Sanin to follow after him. Not sure what was happening, the Mizukage, the Reikage and their guards moved out of the smoke, not wanting to get caught in the confusion. At the same time, the ANBU commander and his team saw four blurs sped right past them. When they turned to look behind them, they saw that the pieces of the two dead Tsunanines were gone, and all that was left was their empty clothing. Realizing that they were fakes, the ANBU commander and his team immediately turned to look over at the Hokage and others, who were now surrounded by four unknown shinobi. "Looks like it's finally time," commented a dark-skinned man with four arms, who was wearing a shinobi headband with the symbol of Oto on it. "I've got a lot of stress to vent because we had to stay in those cramped disguises for so long," said a silver-haired youth, who seemingly had another head sticking out of his back. "You all smell like shit," spoke a red-headed teen, who was the only woman of the group. "Cut it out, we're all on the same side," scolded a bulky-looking youth with a mohawk-shaped hairstyle. "Oto shinobi," thought the Sandaime and the two Sanin together when they saw their four shinobi. "We need to help the Hokage-sama, Jiraiya-sama and Tsunade-sama," said the ANBU commander as he and his team leapt towards the Hokage and the others. But before they could reach them, the four Oto shinobi surrounding the Hokage and the others all formed a single hand seal and yelled, "Ninpo, Shishinjin, Ninja Art, for Violet Flames Battle Encampment." As soon as the four Oto shinobi said this, a large purple squared-shaped barrier formed around the four Kage-level shinobi. When one of the ANBU tried to break through the barrier, he was immediately pushed back, after which he then burst into flames. "Damn it, they've put up a barrier, we can't break through," said the ANBU commander after they were forced to halt their advance. And Naruto OST heavy violence in the stands. From their position in the stands, Kushina, Kakashi and the others could see the large purple barrier now surrounding the Hokage and the others, preventing the ANBU from helping. "I don't believe it, they were actually able to stop our ANBU," Yamato said in surprise. "They are clearly not regular shinobi," commented Kakashi. "We need to go help," spoke Kushina, where she was about to move, only to be stopped by another ANBU. "Bear, what the hell do you think you're doing? Get out of the way. We need to help the Hokage-sama, he's in danger," Kushina yelled when she saw the ANBU. Bear of course did not answer and remained silent, but just as Kushina was about to yell at her former comrade again, four masked Oto shinobi appeared out of the audience and flanked him, blocking Kushina and the others' path. "Well, this is certainly a bummer," muttered Kakashi. "I never expected an enemy agent to be disguised as one of our ANBU members," said Yamato with a frown while he and the other readied themselves for combat. Kushina surprisingly did not comment, although a low growl could be heard from her as she slowly drew her katana. Realizing that for the enemy agent to be disguised as Bear, he must have killed him. "He must have been the one who cast the Nien Shoujo no Jutsu," said Kurenai, since only skilled shinobi could perform such a large-scale version of the technique. On the rooftop currently trapped inside the purple barrier, the two Sanin stared off with the Kazekage, who still held their former teacher hostage. Neither one was willing to act yet for fear of what would happen to the Sandaime should they try anything. "I never expected Suna to betray Konoha like this. Tell me why, Kazekage-sama?" the Hokage asked, as the Tsunade continued to hold his kunai against his neck. "A treaty is merely camouflage to relax an enemy. But now these little mock battles are at an end and the true one begins now. Are you trying to start a war?" Tsunade suddenly spoke, as she and Jiraiya stood in front of the Kazekage and the Hokage, several meters apart. "Why, yes," replied the Kazekage with a small chuckle. "Kazekage-sama, I beseech you, stop this madness while there is still time. Whatever problems there are between us, we can talk them out. There is no need for this to escalate into a war," said the Sandaime, hoping to reason with his fellow Kage, When the Sandaime finished, the Kage began to chuckle. Clearly you've not only grown old, but become complacent as well, after getting used to peace, Sarutobi-sensei. Once the Kage said this, the Hokage and the two Sanin finally realized that they were not dealing with the Kage. In the finalist box dash. Shit! So that's what they were up. They were planning on attacking us, shouted Naruto after seeing what happened in the Kage box. Damn it, I should have realized it sooner, now it makes sense. They were probably planning on having Gaara transform into his Biju state when they were ready, making it easier to destroy us. Yujito, what the hell is going on? Asked Carrie as she turned to her teammate, since she didn't understand what was going on. Given how last she checked, Suna and Konoha were supposed to be allies. Looks like Suna has betrayed Konoha. Yujito replied as she narrowed her eyes. Crap, looks like we've just been caught in the middle of a war. We need to get to B-sensei and the others now. You bastards! Roared Naruto as glared at Kankuro and Temari and prepared to draw his katana to attack. But before he could even pull it out halfway, Temari opened up her large fan and swung it, creating a massive blast of wind that sent Naruto and the others crashing into the wall behind them. Once Naruto and the others were dealt with, Temari and Kankuro quickly jumped into the arena to aid their wounded brother, who was on his knees holding his injured shoulder, on the rooftop dash. My, when Gaara did his thing, I was planning on stealing Sasuke-kun and Naruto-kun, said the fake Kazekage. But it seems that I cannot have everything go my way. At the mention of her son, Tsunade began to growl and took a step forward, only to be stopped by Jiraiya, who shook his head, telling her not to. I see, so I was right, you're after not only Konoha, but Sasuke and Naruto, said the Sandaime calmly. Do you actually believe that Konoha is that important? The imposter Kage asked. It a pity Gaara was not able to transform when it was time, you could have all seen something very interesting. But still, it matters little, since your ignorance has finally driven the finally nail into Konoha's coffin, and I have one. I wouldn't be so sure of that. Jiraiya retorted angrily. Indeed, we do not know the results of something until the very end, added the Sandaime. I believe taught you that, Orochimaru. After the Hokage said his name, the former Sanin just smirked behind his mask and used his one free hand to pull off his mask and false face, revealing himself. So good to see you too, Jiraiya-kun, Tsunade, Sarutobi-sensei. I knew it! Thought both Jiraiya and Tsunade together, as they both glared at their former teammate. Orochimaru! Gasped the Mizukage in shock, who was standing just outside the purple barrier. The infamous Noop-nin, said Ao in surprise. So all this time, it was Orochimaru pretending to be the Kazekage, said the Raikage out loud. I knew there was something off about him. But what happened to the Yondaime Kazekage-sama? She asked. Who knows, replied Darui, knowing that this wasn't going to end well. I knew this day wouldn't come, said the Sandaime sadly before staring directly into Orochimaru's eyes. But just because I have gotten old, doesn't mean that you can take my head so easily. You tell him, old man, said Jiraiya as he prepared to fight. If you want Sensei's life, you'll have to go through us first, said Tsunade with a fiery determination as she too prepared for battle. Kukuku, oh, I had every intention of doing so, my dear Tsunade, replied Orochimaru with sinister smirk, where he then brought up his kunai and licked it with his long tongue. And no matter how much you resist, it will change nothing, as you will all die here today, together. In the stands dash. It seems they have quite a number of people, Asuma remarked while at the same time glancing worriedly up at his father, who was trapped in the barrier. Stay safe, Dad. TSK, we're careless, they caught us with our pants down, muttered Anko. And if that wasn't enough, they have the Hokage-sama hostage, and Tsunade-sama and Jiraiya-sama are trapped inside the barrier, added Shizen, where she then looked up to where her teacher was. When she looked inside the barrier, her eyes widened in shock. Everyone look up inside their barrier. When the senior shinobi looked up to the rooftop where the Hokage and the others were, they were shocked to see that the Kazekage was in fact Orochimaru in disguise. Orochimaru! Anko hissed furiously as she felt the curse seal on her neck burn with pain. Shit! Cursed Kushina, who knew how bad this would make things. Hokage-sama, said Yamato in concern for his leader. Dad, thought a worried Asuma.it was then when all the senior Jonin were momentarily distracted by the Kazekage being actually Orochimaru in disguise. That two of Oto's shinobi jumped forward and tried to attack Sakura and Hinata, who was still in their seats. Taken by surprise and unable to do anything, both girls closed in fear of what was to come next. But just as the masked shinobi were about to pounce down on them, two figures suddenly appeared in front of the girls and slashed both in the chest before pushing them away. When the two girls opened their eyes, they saw Kakashi and Kushina standing in front of them, and immediately realized they had protected them from the enemy shinobi. "Bastards!" hissed Kushina after drawing her katana from its sheath. The red-headed jonin was already angry over the death of Bear, who had been a friend, and what was happening now. But after seeing the two Otonins going after Hinata and Sakura, she was now livid. The other shinobi of course noticed Kushina's fury, since it was hard not to, given how her bright red hair began to rise up and was moving around like a roaring fire which matched the murderous red aura surrounding her. "Oh boy, things are going to get messy now," Kakashi thought, as he knew that look all too well. He first saw it on a mission against a large group of Kumo shinobi, who had ambushed them, and it was after that battle that people began to refer to Kushina as Barati Shinku no Ikari, Bloody Crimson Fury. Kakashi was of course not the only one who knew this look, since Yamato also knew it, and the last time he saw Kushina acted like this, things got rather bloody. "Sakura-chan, Hinata-chan, I think it's best that you two stay here and not move," Kakashi said as he looked down at the two girls, and gave them one of his friendly eye smiles, as if there was nothing wrong. "As who knows what will happen now that Kushina-senpai is like this." Enter Naruto Oastirikiri. After Kushina and Kakashi saved Hinata and Sakura from the Oto shinobi, 24 more Oto and Suna shinobi appeared out of the audience, and joined the fake ANBU and the remaining other Oto shinobi. At the same time several Konoha shinobi arrived and joined Kushina and the others, where the two sides then faced off with one another, after a moment or so of staring at one another. The battle began with an angry shout from Kushina, who yelled, "Kill them all! I really hate it when she gets like that," said Yamato before they leapt forward. "Speak for yourself, that's music to my ears," retorted Anko with a bloodthirsty grin as she moved forward. Within seconds the two sides clashed, battling in the air over the unconscious audience members and between the stands at high speed. The battle was of course not easy for the Konoha shinobi, who had to watch where they were fighting and had to use their jutsu wisely, for fear of missing an enemy and hitting a civilian. But despite the complication of having to fight their enemies and protect the civilians at the same time, the Konoha shinobi proved to be more than a match for their adversaries. During the battle Kushina deflected several shuriken that were thrown at her by an Otonin with his katana, while at the same time making sure that they hit no one. Once the shuriken had been dealt with, the red-headed kunoichi swiftly made her way over to the enemy shinobi before he had time to defend himself and slashed his stomach open. After dealing with the Otonin, Kushina glanced behind her and noticed another Oto shinobi, not far from her, standing over a Konoha chunin preparing to stab him with his kunai. Acting fast, Kushina quickly raised her left hand up and fired one of her chakra chains out of the palm of her hand. The chain then quickly flew through the air and impaled the Oto shinobi from the back right when he was about to stab the helpless Konohanin. After impaling the enemy shinobi with her chain, Kushina then pulled her chain back, with the now dead Otonin still attached. She then swung him around a bit before having him crash into another Oto shinobi who was moving in on Kushina from her right. Once the Otonins had been dealt with, Kushina looked over to the Konohanin, who signaled his thanks to her before rejoining the battle. But as soon the Konohanin left, Kushina found herself surrounded by 3 more Oto shinobi, 2 in front and 1 behind. Unafraid, Kushina readied her katana, holding it up with both her hands this time, thinking he could catch the woman. Off guard, the Otonin behind Kushina moved forward and went to stab her in the back with his kunai. But just as he was about to stab her, Kushina brought her katana down and performed a backward stab, impaling the masked shinobi in the stomach. After seeing Kushina killing their comrade, the 2 remaining sound shinobi moved on the former ANBU captain. Seeing this, Kushina immediately pulled her katana out of the dead Otonin's body and with a series of high-speed sword slashes and moves, dealt with the remaining Otonins, who fell to the ground dead within seconds. As soon the 2 Otonins had been dealt with, Kushina looked around for any more enemies and said, "Who's next?" before jumping forward to find the fake ANBU or more enemies, whichever she found first. Not far from Kushina, Asuma was busy battling an Otonin and a Sunanin. After taking care of the Suna shinobi, Asuma quickly jumped backwards to avoid a kunai stab from the Otonin he was battling. He then landed on the small railing in front of the stands and performed 3 quick hand seals and fired a short burst of fire from his mouth, hitting the Otonins dead on and killing within seconds. As soon as Asuma had dealt with the Otonin, Asuna Kunoichi suddenly appeared above him and threw a kunai at him. Before Asuma could do anything, another kunai appeared and deflected the incoming projectile. After which a third kunai appeared and hit the Kunoichi in the chest, who then fell to the ground. When Asuma turned in the direction of the kunai, he saw that his savior was none other than Kurenai, who smiled at him after she took out a new kunai. "Looks like I own you one Kurenai," Asuma said with a smirk. "Anytime," the raven-haired woman replied with her own smirk before they both of them leapt off to continue battling. At the same time at another end of the arena, Yamato was busy dealing with several Suna shinobi. After dealing with his third opponent, a fourth shinobi appeared behind him and attempted to stab him in the back. But before the Sunanin could complete the job, he was hit in the back by several Senbon needles. When Yamato turned around to look at the now unconscious shinobi, he suddenly heard someone call out to him. "Watch your back, Yamato-san." Looking up, Yamato saw Shizen standing not far from him, with her sleeves pulled up, revealing her wrist-mounted Senbon launcher, which she had used to save Yamato. Nodding his thanks, Yamato was about to say he would, but before he could, he and Shizen suddenly heard some manic laughter coming from Yamato's left and Shizen's right. When they turned to look, they immediately realized the source of the laughter. The manic laughter came from none other than the former apprentice of Orochimaru, who was busy killing any Otonin who was foolish enough to confront her. After dodging several flying kunai, Anko quickly used her Sanaijushu, hidden shadow snake hands, to launch several snakes from herself and fired them at two Otonins, who struggled to get the snakes off them, but could not. As the snakes wrapped themselves around the Otonin's arms, legs and faces and bit them, paralyzing the two within seconds, allowing the snakes to quickly finish them off. When Anko had dealt with the two Otonins, three more appeared and charged forward. Undeterred, Anko jumped forward to meet them, where she maneuvered past the first one and stabbed him in the back of the neck with her kunai, killing him instantly. Once the first shinobi was dead, Anko quickly pulled out her kunai from the dead shinobi's neck and used it to block a kunai slash from the second shinobi. After blocking the attack, Anko then brought up her right leg and kneed the enemy shinobi hard in the groin, causing him to buckle over in pain, showing no mercy to the injured man. The former apprentice of Orochimaru finished him off with a strong kick to the face, sending him flying out of the stands and down into the arena below. But as soon as she did this, the purple-haired Kunoichi was forced to jump back to avoid several projectiles from the third sound shinobi. As soon as she had finished evading all the projectiles, Anko quickly countered with her own kunai and threw it at the masked shinobi, hitting square in the head and killing him instantly. "Humph, Orochimaru really is scrapping off the barrel if he using trash like this to attack Konoha. I'm just warming up," Anko said to herself before taking out another kunai and going off to find more victims. "Looks like someone is having fun," commented Yamato after seeing Anko deal with the Otonins. "Yeah, let's not be left behind," replied Shizen before the two of them took off. In another part of the stands, Kakashi was busy fighting several Oto shinobi, while at the same time making sure that Hinata and Sakura came to no harm. Soon after, Kakashi was joined by Guy, who suddenly appeared and assisted the Kopinin with the enemy shinobi, using his superior taijutsu skill to knock them out. "Good to see you, Guy," Kakashi said as he and the green suit-wearing man stood back to one another. "You too, my friend. I've just sent my adorable students to go help Irika-san and the other teachers in helping protect the students." "Good thinking. I was just about to go over and help myself," Kushina said as she joined the two men. "Kushina-senpai, I am pleased to see you. Before I came here, I spoke to Aoba-san, who told me that the village is under attack by several giant snakes. Our forces are trying to halt their advance, but they are having little effect on the creatures, especially since they also have to deal the large number of Suna and Oto shinobi who are invading the village. Kushina-senpai, I think it would be best if you were to go out and help them with the snakes. We can handle the enemy here," said Kakashi, knowing that Kushina was the best person to deal with the massive summons. "Right," replied the redhead before taking off. "Kakashi, I'm worried about the Hokage-sama, but let the ANBU deal with that guy," Kakashi said as he knew they needed to focus on the matter at hand here. "The Hokage-sama won't lose so easily, besides Tsunade-sama and Jiraiya-sama are in there with him, so he should be fine." "I suppose you're right," Guy replied, although he couldn't help but still worry for the old Kage. "And Naruto os Kiri on the rooftop dash." "Kukukuku," laughed Orochimaru as he faced off at his former teammates. "I must say this truly is an auspicious day. How many years has it been since the four of us were together like this?" "Not long enough." Tsunade spat angrily. "Cut the crap, Orochimaru. You were never the sentimental type. Rounded Jiraiya. Ah, very true. Replied the snake Sanin, before he stabbed the kunai he was holding against the Sandame's neck into his other hand. This act naturally surprised those watching, but before anyone could comment, the snake Sanin moved away from his former teacher, who then quickly jumped over to his two other former students, and joined them if facing off against the last. What is your goal, Orochimaru? I know that you are not motivated by simple revenge against Konoha, said the Sandame. How true, replied Orochimaru. If I were to put my goal into words, I would simply say that I like to see moving things, as they are boring when they don't move. What are you getting at? An irritated Tsunade asked, since Orochimaru loved to drone on about things. Impatient as always, Tsunade, mocked Orochimaru. Very well, I want to destroy Konoha, because I am interested to see what happens afterwards. Naturally, after hearing this, the two Sanin and the old Hokage frowned, as the idea of destroying an entire village for such a useless reason appalled them. In finalist box dash. Oh wow, my head, moaned Naruto as he slowly got back onto his feet and held his head in pain, after being slammed into the back of the wall by Temari's wind blast. Damn that fangirl, I'll get her back for that. Soon after getting back onto his feet, Naruto looked over to the others. Hey Yujito-chan, Karui-chan, are you two okay? Fine, grunted Yujito as she slowly picked herself up. NNGH, I'm okay, groaned Karui. But that's more than I can say for the Suna bitch once I get my hands on her. That's going to have to wait, said Naruto, as he looked around and saw that the two Sand siblings were gone. After seeing that both Kankuro and Temari were gone, Naruto went over to Shikamaru, who was still lying on the ground, seemingly under the Genjutsu. But when Naruto used the Genjutsu Kai to free him, the young Nara refused to wake up. Knowing he had performed the Genjutsu Kai correctly, Naruto's first thoughts were that maybe Shikamaru had been knocked out when he was blasted into the wall. But when the young Senju checked him for any head injuries, he saw none. It was then that Naruto suddenly noticed Shikamaru's eye twitch slightly. He wouldn't, thought, and now annoyed Naruto as a large tick formed on his head before saying the young Nara's name slowly, indicating irritation. Shikamaru, wake up! Yelled Naruto as he kicked the Nara in the butt hard. Ouch! Yelled the young Nara in pain, as he held his sore rear. Naruto, you jerk, what the hell was that for? Shikamaru said in annoyance, while still holding his butt in pain. You know damn well what that was for, Naruto said angrily. You were able to repel the Genjutsu, like the rest of us. You were just pretending to be asleep. Geez, Naruto, you can be such a pain. I don't want to get involved in this. Let the other shinobi deal with it. Shikamaru, you lazy-ass jerk, you're going to get involved in this fight even if I have to drag you into it. This is our village, and we have to defend it with everything we had, grounded Naruto angrily. Troublesome, muttered Shikamaru. Where's Shino? I'm sure he will be more than happy to help you. I don't know, he was gone, as soon as I came to, Naruto replied, as there was no sign of the young Aburame, and he figured that Shino had gone after Temari and Kankuro. Wanting to get into this fight as soon as possible, Naruto quickly took out a food pill from his utility belt and swallowed. Sorry, Kage-chan, but I'm going to have to break my promise about not using any more food pills. After taking the food pill, Naruto soon felt his chakra reserve replenishing. Once he was back to full strength, Naruto turned to the two Kumo Kunoichi. Karui-chan, Yujito-chan, I think it would be best if you two go to B-sensei. This fight doesn't concern you guys. Yeah, I know, replied Yujito, who knew Naruto was right. This fight didn't concern them or their village. But even so, the blonde Kunoichi couldn't help but feel anxious. Damn it, Naruto must be rubbing off on me. I know I shouldn't be bothered with this battle since it doesn't involve us. But I still can't shake this feeling telling me to help. Come on, Karui, we need to get to B-sensei, said Yujito. Right, replied the dark-skinned girl. Before leaving, Yujito turned to look over at Naruto. Watch yourself, Naruto, and don't die. If anyone is to defeat you, it will be me. Smirking at Yujito's comment, the Senju heir just nodded. Don't worry, I don't plan to. If I did, my mom would probably bring me back, just to kill me herself for getting killed. Smiling at the joke, Yujito quickly made her way down the stairs to get to her sensei and the rest of her team. Once the girls had left, Naruto turned to Shikamaru. Let's get to Kushina sensei and the others and try and help. Geez, do we have to? Moaned Shikamaru. Yes, replied Naruto, where he then gave the young Nara heir a look that told him he had no choice in the matter. Knowing it would be pointless to argue any further, Shikamaru followed after Naruto as they made their way to the stands, all the while silently mumbling to himself. This is such a drag, Naruto can be such a pain, and he's as bossy as Ino, must be a blonde thing. Currently in the stands Kakashi, Guy and the other Konoha shinobi were still fighting furiously against the Oto and Suna shinobi who had infiltrated the stadium before the invasion started. After defeating 2 more Oto shinobi, Kakashi suddenly heard Sakura cry out to him. Kakashi-sensei, Gaara and his team have left the arena and Sasuke-kun has gone after them. That's not good. Gaara is not someone Sasuke can defeat on his own, he's going to need some backup, thought the copy Nin before making his way over to Hinata and Sakura. Hinata, I want you to go over to where the academy students are. Iruka and the other shinobi teachers will be there protecting them, along with Guy's team. I want you to go help them. Hi Kakashi-sensei. Hinata replied, who knew that there was no point in arguing with Kakashi given the serious look he was giving them. Once Hinata had left, Kakashi turned to his female student. Sakura, I want you to dispel the genjutsu on Ino and wake her up and then go find Naruto and Shikamaru. But why? Asked Sakura, not understanding what her sensei wanted her to wake Ino and find Shikamaru and Naruto. Because I have a mission for you, answered the silvered-haired jonin. A mission? Repeated the pink-haired girl in surprise. Yes, an A-rank mission, just like the one in Nami no Kuni, which is why I want you all to proceed with caution, as you won't have any backup. What do you mean, sensei? What do you want us to do? I want you all to go after Sasuke and back him up. But why just the 4 of us? Shouldn't I also wake Kiba and Choji up, so that we will have a bigger group? No, with so many enemies here, a group bigger than a 4-man team would be noticed too easily. That's why I sent Hinata to Iruka and the others, where she'll be safe, as she is still recovering from her injury from Niji. But, how will we find Sasuke-kun and know which way he went? Don't worry, I've already thought of that. Kakashi replied, where he then cut his thumb and used a summoning jutsu to summon and pug-faced dog. Pakin here will help you find Sasuke, now hurry, said Kakashi with urgency in his voice, before leaving off to rejoin the battle. Oh, okay, said Sakura, still not sure about the dog, but quickly got over it and then went over to Ino and used the Genjutsu Kai to wake her friend up. Once Ino woke up, the blonde girl was naturally confused over what was happening, forcing Sakura to spend several minutes to explain what was happening and what Kakashi had ordered them to do. When Sakura finished explaining the details of their mission, Ino quickly understood what they needed to. If you 2 girls are finished talking, we need to find this Naruto kid and his friend, spoke Pakin suddenly, surprising both girls that he could speak. Did that dog just talk? Ino asked in surprise. It did, Sakura replied, who was just as surprised as her friend. Yes, I'm a talking dog, now come on, we don't have all day, said Pakin, who was annoyed with how much talking the 2 girls were doing. Getting over their surprise, the 2 girls slowly followed Pakin through the stands as the battle between the Konoha and invading shinobi raged. The 2 girls did their best to be stayed down and remain unnoticed. After a few minutes, Ino suddenly turned to Sakura. Why the hell are we even following this dog? Does he even know where Naruto-kun and Shikamaru are? Yes, I do know where they are, as I can smell them, and they're close. Also, I've got good hearing. Pakin spoke suddenly without looking back at Ino. Now, unless you want a kunai stabbed in the back by one of these shinobi, you'll keep that trap of yours shut. After being rebuked by Pakin, the Yamanaka heiress was left quite red from embarrassment. Under normal circumstances, Sakura would have been rather amused at her usual outspoken friend being left speechless by a dog. But given how they were in the middle of a battle, she decided to leave it for another time. It was then in this moment that Sakura suddenly noticed a stray kunai out of the corner of her eye, heading straight for her friend. Ino, watch out! Sakura yelled as she moved to push the blonde girl out of the path of the flying kunai. But before she could reach the female Yamanaka, a figure suddenly appeared next to Ino and deflected the kunai. Once the kunai had been deflected, Sakura saw that the figure was none other than Naruto. Naruto-kun! Ino cried as she jumped on top of the male blonde, forcing him to the ground and hugged him tightly. You saved me! Ino-chan, please, this isn't the time, Naruto said as he pushed the blonde girl off him. He's right, girlie, we've got more serious issues to deal with, rounded Pakin. Once Ino got off him, Naruto quickly turned to the 2 kunoichi. What are you 2 doing her? It's dangerous, you should both go somewhere safe. We're here looking for you and Shikamaru, answered Sakura. Speaking of which, where is that lazy-ass moron? Ino asked. I'm here, said Shikamaru, as he slowly crawled over to the others behind the back stands. "Shikamaru Yubaka, where the hell have you been?" Ino said loudly. "Geez, Ino, stop being so troublesome and so loud. Do you want the enemy shinobi to hear you and find us?" "He's right now, hurry up and fill them in on what's happening. We don't have time to waste," said Pakken. Unlike Shikamaru, Naruto was not surprised to hear Pakken speak. Since he had been talking to talking slugs and toads all his life, so a talking dog was no weirder than anything else he had seen before. Besides, he had already met a talking dog named Kuramaru when he visited the Inuzuka clan. Heeding Pakken advice, Sakura quickly filled Naruto and Shikamaru in on what Kakashi had ordered them to do. When Sakura finished explaining everything, Shikamaru just groaned with annoyance. "Geez, Sasuke went after that psycho, what a troublesome guy, this is such a drag. Damn it, Sasuke doesn't realize what he's dealing with, Gaara is more dangerous than he thinks, we need to get to him now," Naruto thought angrily. "Alright, let's get going, we need to get to Sasuke fast." "Yeah, but first we have to get out of here alive," said Shikamaru, since there was still heavy fighting going around them and the nearest exit was a good bit away. This meant that they would have to travel through all the fighting that was going on in the stands, without getting caught in the crossfire. "Don't worry, leave that to me," Naruto replied before standing up and using his superhuman strength to punch a hole into the wall, giving them a way out. "Alright, let's get going," Naruto yelled before jumping through the hole he made with Pakken, who led the way. Not wanting to be left behind, Ino and Sakura quickly followed, with Shikamaru bringing up the rear, who was once again mumbling about troublesome blondes. As they left the stands, the group failed to notice a certain shinobi artist shadowing them from a distance, who had been ordered by his master just as the invasion started to watch over Naruto and make sure he did not fall into the hands of the enemy. Keeping his presence hidden from his charges, Sai followed after the four genin. Standing not far from their position, the fake Anbu bear and several Otonins watched as the four genin left the stands. "Is that the boy that Orochimaru-sama wishes us to capture?" asked one of the Otonins. "Yes," replied Bear. "And if I were to guess, I would say that he and his friends have gone after Sasuke to help him stop Gaara." "How can you be so sure?" asked another Oto shinobi. "Because Naruto-kun is probably the best person to deal with Gaara when he is in his transformed state, given his Mokuton bloodline limit. That is why we must stop and capture him at all costs. Gaara's transformation is vital to the success of this invasion, and if Naruto-kun were to stop him, it would be a severe blow to us." "Well, it shouldn't be too hard since he's still just a kid." "Don't underestimate that boy," the fake Anbu said calmly. "He was personally trained by the two of the Densetsu no Sanin, legendary 3 ninja, and received special training from several high-ranking and skilled shinobi. You also all saw with your own eyes how strong he is when he fought the Nibi Jinchuriki. If you were to underestimate him, you would pay for it dearly." After hearing this, Oto shinobi remained silent, knowing that he had a point. Soon after, the fake Umbu and the Otonins followed after the Konoha genin and stopped them from reaching Gaara. At same time, at the other end of the stands, Kuratsuchi and Akatsuchi were doing their best to stay low and avoid getting caught in the battle that was happening around them. "Damn, what the hell is going on? One minute we were watching the Uchiha fight that Suna kid. The next, someone cast a large-scale Jinjusta on most of the audience, and now the stadium has become a battlefield," complained Akatsuchi. "Looks like Suna has betrayed Konoha and joined up with Oto to attack Konoha, and they got the drop on them," replied Kuratsuchi. "What should we do?" the girl's partner asked. "We get out of here, this battle doesn't concern us. If we're lucky, Konoha and Suna will wipe each other out. Besides, we need to get back home and tell Gramps about that Senju kid being able to use Mokuton. He'll want to know about that right away." "Right," said the bulky teen before the two of them made their way out of the stadium and the village, while making sure not to be caught in the crossfire of the two battling sides. At the same time, at yet another part of the stands, Zabuza and his team were busy defending the water daimyo, who was unconscious, and making sure that no stray attacks hit him. "Shit, this exam has really gone to hell," muttered Zabuza after deflecting a kunai with his large sword. "Zabuza-sensei, I believe we should take the daimyo-sama and leave this place," said Saido, who used his katana to deflect a stray shuriken. "TSK, problem with that idea is that he could get hit when we are moving him, or worse, we're mistaken for the enemy by their side," replied the demon of the hidden mist, while at the same thinking how bothersome these daimyos were. "If we stay here, at least they're more likely to leave us alone and fight each other, leaving only stray attacks for us to worry about." "What about the Mizukage-sama?" Saido asked. "Shouldn't we be protecting her?" That's why I send Haku and Chojuro to her. They make sure she's okay and at the same time find out what she wants us to do," replied Zabuza, who then knocked away an Otonin, who had been sent flying in the Miss Swordsman's direct by a Konoha nin. "Besides, she can handle herself. She didn't become the Mizukage for her looks, and she has Ao to watch her back if she gets into trouble." Not far from the Kirinins, Team Kumo was also having a similar discussion with each other after Yujito and Karui joined them. "Well, looks like this is the end of the Chunin exam," muttered Omoi while keeping his head down so not to be caught between the battling Suna, Oto, and Kono shinobi. "What was your first clue, Moron?" said Karui as she glanced over at her teammate. "Can it the both of you? This is not the time or the place for your bickering," rounded Yujito before Omoi could make any comment. "Agreed, B-sensei, what do you think we should do?" asked Samui, since as of right now Konoha was in a state of war, and they were caught in the middle of it. The logical choice would be for them to get the Lightning Daimyo, join up with the Raikage and the others and leave Konoha as quickly as possible and let the two sides battle one another. At this question the male Jinchuriki remained surprisingly silent, and thought over his options before coming to his decision. On the rooftop as the battle in the stands and the village raged, Orochimaru, his former teacher, and teammates prepared to face off. "Kukukuku, to think that I can fight you all again, this truly is like old time," Orochimaru said with a smirk, unafraid that he was currently outnumbered 3-1. "Now that Sarapi-sensei is free, we can get him out of here. All we have to do is take out one of Orochimaru's people, and the barrier will fall," Jiraiya thought. "After that, the ANBU can take Sensei to safety and Tsunade and I can deal with Orochimaru." As if reading his mind, the four Otonins suddenly expanded the barrier, which protected their rear and preventing Jiraiya or anyone else in the barrier from attack them. "Guess I spoke too soon," Dagama Sanin thought, while cursing his luck. "Before we begin, I would like to compliment you, Tsunade," Orochimaru said suddenly. "Compliment me, on what?" asked the slightly confused slug princess. "I want to compliment you and Jiraiya-kun on doing such a superb job on raising young Naruto-kun. He has proven to be quite the rare find given his Mokuton bloodline limit and other talents. In fact, he reminds me a great deal of your dear little brother Nawaki," Orochimaru said with a sly smile. When he first met Naruto, he had noticed how much the young blonde was like his former student, not only in terms of characteristics, but also in some physical aspects as well. 1. Although unlike Naruto-kun, dear Nawaki did not show the same promise as your son, which is probably why his life was cut so tragically short. Orochimaru finished with a cruel smirk and chuckle. Then again, maybe it was because of the necklace you gave him, since you did say it was cursed. At the mention of Nawaki, both Jiraiya and the Sandaime glared angrily at the snake Sanin. But before either of them could say anything, Tsunade leapt forward in a blind rage, crushing the roof tiles underneath her as she moved forward. "You bastard, I'll kill you!" roared Tsunade as she flew toward her former friend with her fist raised. Tsunade was already struggling with her anger over what Orochimaru had done to Naruto in the Forest of Death. But after the way the snake Sanin had talked about her brother, and how he died, it became too much for her to handle, and she exploded with rage and would not stop until she killed the man with bare hands. "Tsunade, stop!" the Sandaime yelled. "That's exactly what Orochimaru wants." Sadly though, Sarutobi's warnings fell on deaf ears, as all Tsunade could think of was how she was going to kill her former comrade. "Fufufu, Tsunade was always so easy to anger," Orochimaru thought with a sick smile, before avoiding Tsunade's punch by jumping up into the air. But as soon as he was in the air, the Sandaime Hokage used the Kawara Shuriken, roof tile shuriken, technique to launch several roof tiles at him. "Not good enough, Sarutobi-sensei," Orochimaru said as he dodged them, before turning his tongue into a snake and launching it at the old Hokage, where it bit his neck. But just when the leader of Oto thought he had his former teacher, Saruobi, reverted into mud, revealing he had replaced himself with a Doton Kage Bunshin, Earth-style, shadow clone. After realizing that he had been tricked, Orochimaru was sent flying to the ground by Jiraiya, who had suddenly appeared behind him and punched hard in the back of the head. Recovering quickly, Orochimaru performed a quick mid-air flip so to land on his feet, but as soon as he did, the Sandaime used Oryu Taiga, Earth Flow River, to transform the roof tiles underneath the snake Sanin into a river of mud, throwing him off balance. This then allowed Tsunade, who had snuck up behind him, to deliver powerful punch to the face that would have shattered anyone's skull and killed them instantly. But as soon Tsunade's fist smashed into the Nuke Nin's skull, Orochimaru reverted into mud, revealing that, like the Sandaime moments ago, he had replaced himself with a Doton Kage Bunshin. After replacing himself with his clone to avoid Tsunade's devastating punch, Orochimaru reappeared behind his female teammate and prepared to strike her from behind. But before he could make any kind of attack, he was kicked away by Jiraiya, who had appeared between his two former teammates, saving the Slug Princess from any harm. After being kicked away by the Gamma Sanin, Orochimaru recovered within seconds and started to preform hand seals for a jutsu. But before he could finish his hand seals, he heard the Sandaimes yell, "Doton Doryuden, Earth Style, Earth Dragon Bullet!" Turning to the sound of his teacher's voice, Orochimaru saw a dragon-like head appear out of the river of mud that the Sandaime created earlier, which then fired several dozen large balls of mud. After which the Sandaime then used Karyuden, Fire Dragon Bullet, to exhale a long stream of fire from his mouth, which ignited the flying earth projectiles, increasing their destructive power. Within seconds of being hit by the flaming mud balls, Orochimaru was engulfed by flames, causing the snake Sanin to cry out in pain as he fell into a crumpled heap. As expected, not even Orochimaru is a match for the combined might of the Hokage-sama, Jiraiya-sama and Tsunade-sama, said the ANBU commander. "Cut the crappy acting, Orochimaru, we know you're not dead," said Jiraiya as he and Tsunade rejoined their teacher. "Agreed," added the Sandaime. "Kukukuku, and I thought I was rather convincing," joked the former Sanin as he rose out from the tile floors while his fake reverted into mud. "Give it up, Orochimaru, not even you can hope to defeat the three of us by yourself," said Tsunade, who was still angry, but had now cooled down when she realized that Orochimaru had baited her, so that she would make a mistake for him to exploit. "Oh, it seems that you all underestimating me, especially if you think such petty attacks like those you made just now will kill me. So perhaps we should stop fooling around with one another and get serious, as we are no longer genin." "You're right," said the Sandaime before he threw off his Hokage robes and revealed his old shinobi uniform underneath and fell into a taijutsu stance. "Fine by me," spoke Jiraiya as he also fell into a taijutsu. "I had every intention of doing so, since I won't stop until you're nothing more than a bloody smear on the end of my heel," answered Tsunade as she began to crack her knuckles and her shoulders. Seeing his former teammates and teacher getting serious, Orochimaru also thought it was time, where like the Sandaime he removed his Kage robes, revealing his normal attire underneath. As the four Kage-level shinobi faced off, the observing ANBU and other Kages could feel the immense power emanating from them. It became even more apparent when the roof tiles underneath the four shinobi began to crack. "Incredible, all four of them are releasing a huge amount of power," commented C, who had never sensed so much chakra at once in his life, as he watched the battle with Darui and the Raikage. "The real battle is about to begin," said Mei, and received a nod of agreement from Ao, who had now uncovered his Byakugan to watch the battle. Due to the massive amount of chakra that was being released by the four Kage-level shinobi, everyone on the rooftop, with the exception of the Mizukage and the Raikage, were finding it difficult to breathe, where it felt like the air was pushing down on top of them. Enter Naruto OST. Need to be strong. After about a moment or so of staring at one another, the four shinobi suddenly raced forward. Sarutobi struck first, where he threw a single kunai at Orochimaru, and then used the Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shuriken Shadow Clone Technique, to multiple the number of Shuriken from 1 to 1,000. At the same time, Jiraiya used the Ryuka no Jutsu, Dragon Fire Technique, to envelop the Shuriken in flames, turning them into flame shuriken and enhancing their destructive capability. Unafraid of the flaming projectiles, Orochimaru finished his hand seals and yelled, "Kuchios, Edo Tensei, summoning, impure world reincarnation." "That move is," the concerned Sandaime thought. "He wouldn't," Tsunade thought angrily. "Damn you, Orochimaru," Jiraiya thought as he cursed his former friend. "First," yelled Orochimaru, as the first coffin rose from the ground in front of him. "He's using the summons as a shield," said the Sandaime after realizing what Orochimaru was up to. "Second," shouted the snake Sanin as the second coffin rose from the ground, where together the two coffins defended Orochimaru from the flaming shuriken. After the coffins blocked the flaming shuriken, Orochimaru summoned the last coffin and cried, "Third! Damn it, no matter what, I can let him summon a third 1-inch. Tsunade thought, as she leapt into their air and channeled her chakra into her right fist and slammed down on top of the third coffin, just as it appeared out of the ground, and sent it back down. "Oh, the third one failed, pity, but it matters little, as all is well," Orochimaru thought from behind the first two coffins. Good work, Heim, you prevented the third summon from appearing. Congratulated the Jiraiya. Save the thanks, since we're still in trouble. The blonde woman replied, since she knew this jutsu all too well and knew what it meant for them. Indeed, as things will only get tougher for us now, replied the Sandaime, while at the same time wondering who exactly Orochimaru had summoned to fight for him. I do so hope you all enjoy this little surprise that I have made for all of you, since I picked these two to mark our reunion, said Orochimaru with a cruel smirk. I'm certain that you Sarutobi-sensei and Tsunade will be especially delighted to see them again. Not sure of what to expect, the three shinobi prepared for what was to come. But when the coffin doors fell to reveal who Orochimaru had summoned with the Edo Tensei, the eyes of every shinobi on the rooftop widened in disbelief at seeing who was inside. The people, who were affected the most by the occupants of the coffins, were the Sandaime and Tsunade. For the people that Orochimaru had summoned were none other than the founder of Konoha, Senju Hashirama, the Shodai Hokage and Senju Tobirama, former sensei of Sarutobi and Nidaime Hokage, and Naruto OST need to be strong dash. Reikage-sama, is that who I think it is? She asked in shock. Yes, replied the bulky Kage as he narrowed his eyes. Those are two of Konoha's founders, the Shodai Hokage-sama and his brother the Nidaime Hokage-sama. Orochimaru, growled the Sandaime angrily. Damn you, Jiraiya said as he glared at his former best friend. Curse you, wretched soul, Orochimaru, roared a furious Tsunade, who was appalled at how her former teammate used her great-uncle's own technique to summon him and her grandfather from the dead to fight them. Kukuku, laughed an amused Orochimaru. What's wrong? I thought you both would be happy to see them. Not like this, replied Sarutobi. At the same time the two former Hokages slowly stepped out from their coffins and walked forward towards the Sandaime and his two former pupils. It's been a long time, Saru, spoke the Shodai Hokage suddenly. You've aged, Sarutobi, commented the Nidaime Hokage as he looked at his former student. And you, Tsunade, you've grown up, Hashirama said, as he looked at his granddaughter. In more ways than one, remarked the Tobirama with a smile as he glanced at the two large mounds on his great-niece's chest. Sofu, grandfather, Tobirama-ji, great-uncle Tobirama. An upset Tsunade said as she fought back the tears that were beginning to fall with seeing her deceased relatives. I never expected to see you two again in this manner, commented the Sandaime sadly as he faced his former teachers. I must say I am quite surprised. I never expected anyone, other than myself, to be able to use Edo Tensei. I hate to admit it, but this kid is something else, the Nidaime Hokage remarked as he glanced back at the smirking Orochimaru. Now that he has summoned us, I'm afraid we will have no choice but to fight all of you, said the Shodai Hokage sadly. This is the worst possible outcome, said the ANBU commander. Reikage-sama, how is this possible? How did Orochimaru summon those two dead Hokages? She asked as he turned to his village leader. At first the Reikage did not answer, and just stared at the two deceased Hokage. But eventually he answered. From what I have heard, the technique that Orochimaru used is called the Edo Tensei. It's a forbidden Kuchios no Jutsu, which revives the dead. But from what I have heard, unlike most summoning techniques which normally involve a user offering up some blood, the Edo Tensei requires the user to offer up a living person's body, allowing the soul that has been summoned to inhabit it and tie it to the living world. So you're saying that Orochimaru sacrificed two people to summon the Shodai Hokage-sama and the Nidaime Hokage-sama? Darui asked with a large frown on his one visible eye, since he didn't like the sound of that. More than likely, and it's just as likely that the dust and dirt has surrounded the bodies of the two sacrifices and formed the summoned soul's original bodies. So that is the infamous forbidden technique of the Nidaime Hokage, Edo Tensei, Ao remarked with a slight frown. Yes, and it is just as deplorable as the stories have said, replied the Mizukage, who felt a twig of disgust after seeing Orochimaru use the technique, not liking the technique. As much as I am enjoy watching this little catch-up, I think it's time we get to the matter at hand, said Orochimaru as he walked up to the two resurrected Hokage holding two kunai with seals attached to them. Glancing out to the village, the Shodai Hokage could hear the sounds of battle going on down in the arena and stands as well as from the village. He could even see the large snake summons destroying the buildings around them and explosions. So even now, after all this time, there is still war, the Shodai remarked sadly. But don't you like war? Asked a mocking Orochimaru. After all, you both excelled at it, and it is because of war that the two of you have become such revered figures in the shinobi world. Mocking the dead, have you no shame, Orochimaru? Sarabi said angrily. My grandfather and great-uncle hated war. All they wanted was a safe place for our people to live in peace. Tsunade yelled furiously after hearing Orochimaru say that her forefathers enjoyed war. Hearing this, Orochimaru just smirked and placed the two seal kunai into the back of the heads of the two Hokages, which allowed him to have complete control over the late shinobi. After the seal kunais were inside their heads, the color began to return to the former Kage's faces, making them more lifelike. Once the two Hokage brothers were ready, Orochimaru spoke. Now then, gentlemen, if you would be so kind. Dispose of my former teammates and my decrepit old sensei. Prepare yourselves, Sarutobi Tsunade, said the Shodai Hokage. For we will not be able to hold back on any of you. Finished the Naidame Hokage before he and his brother raced forward and attacked. Within seconds, the two Sanin and the Sandame found themselves under attack by the late Hokages, who spilt up and attacked by throwing several shuriken and kunai and then attacking from opposite sides. Despite being attacked from both sides, Sarutobi and his two remaining loyal students easily evaded the projectiles and defended themselves from the deceased shinobi. For the first few minutes of the fight, the 5 Kage-level shinobi fought with just taijutsu. As expected, the two late Hokages proved to be highly skilled in taijutsu and had excellent teamwork where they synchronized their attacks, making it difficult for their opponents to gain the advantage. But even so, the Sandame and his two former students proved to be an even match for the two brothers in both taijutsu and in teamwork, where they were able to successfully defend themselves from the two Hokages' attacks. After a while, the two brothers were forced back by their opponents when the Sandame and Jiraiya each blocked their separate punches and grabbed hold of them, preventing them from moving away, and allowing Tsunade to send them both flying with a supercharged punch. Recovering quickly, the two Kage brothers flipped backwards and landed back on their feet. As expected, this will not be an easy fight, commented the Shodai Hokage. It would seem so, replied the Naidame Hokage. After forcing the two dead Hokages back, Sarutobi began to form several high-speed hand seals. Jiraiya, I'm going to need your support. Right. The Toad Sage replied, knowing what his sensei was going to do and prepared to help. Once the Sandame was ready, he then said, Katan, Karyu Enden, fire style, fire dragon flame bullet, and spewed out a large stream of fire that took the shape of a dragon. At the same time, Jiraiya spat out a long stream of toad oil from his mouth, which instantly ignited when it hit the flames and increased the intensity of the already supercharged flames by 1,000 degrees. Within seconds, the two Hokages were enveloped by the flames of the fire attack. But shortly after, the Naidame countered with Suetun, Sujin Hiki, water style, water encampment wall, and spat out a massive wave of water from his mouth to hold the flames back. But even with its elemental advantage, the water wall struggled to hold the oil-enhanced flames back. Seeing this, the Naidame Hokage began to spit out even larger amounts of water from his mouth, causing a battle for dominance to begin between the three shinobi. Eventually, though, the Naidame Hokage won the battle for dominance and extinguished the flames. Unbelievable, he was actually able to defeat the combined efforts of the Hokage-sama and Jiraiya-sama by himself, muttered one of the Anbu in awe. As expected from the great Naidame Hokage-sama, Mei thought, after defeating Jiraiya's and Sarutobi's combination attack. The Naidame Hokage then preformed a single hand seal and began to gather the moisture from the air and said, Suetun Swishoha, water style, water colliding wave. After which a massive spiraling vortex appeared around the two dead Hokage and exploded into a giant wave that headed straight for the Sandame and the others. Amazing, using a high-level water jutsu like that, by just forming a single hand seal, in a place with no pre-existing water nearby, using the moisture in the air alone, said C in disbelief. Not even I could do that, Darui thought after seeing massive building-size wave. Shit! Jiraiya thought when he saw the giant wave heading for them. Jiraiya, Tsunade, stay back, yelled the Sandame as he formed 4 quick hand seals and yelled, Doton, Dorihiki, Earth style wall. As soon as the Sandame said this, he spat out a large amount of mud from his mouth onto the roof tiles in front of them, which then formed into a massive earth wall that blocked the giant wave. Quick thinking, sensei, said Jiraiya as he congratulated his former teacher, but quickly found his congratulations were premature, as the Naidame used his water manipulation skills to have the water circle around the earth wall and surround the 3 shinobi. Before the massive water wave could envelope them, the 3 shinobi quickly jumped into the air and onto the top of the earth wall to safety. As the water around the earth wall began to settle, the 3 shinobi immediately jumped off it. At the same time, the Shodai who had been standing in the sidelines during his brother's attacks, raced towards them with phenomenal speed. Wasting no time, the Sandaime and Jiraiya fired several fire blasts at the Konoha founder, hoping to force him back. Tsunade also joined in by using her superhuman strength to throw several large pieces of the earth wall at her late grandfather, but despite the massive barrage of earth and fire attacks he came under from, the Shodai Hokage skillfully evaded and blocked all of them, before finally jumping up into the air and sending Jiraiya flying back into the earth wall with a strong kick, which the Toad Sage blocked, but was still sent flying back. "Damn, he moves pretty fast for an old guy," Jiraiya muttered as he began to pick himself up. Seeing Jiraiya set flying, Sarutobi quickly moved towards the Shodai and attempted a right cross to the Shodai's face, only to miss as the Shodai sidestepped the punch, who then kicked some water from his brother's earlier water attack into the Sarutobi's face, momentarily blinding the elder Hokage. But before the Shodai Hokage could take advantage of the situation, Tsunade appeared above him and attempted to use her Tsutenkyaku, Heavenly Foot of Pain, down on her grandfather's head, who saw the attack coming and caught her leg just as it was about to hit him, and then swung her around for a moment, before sending her crashing into Jiraiya, who had just gotten back up. Once Tsunade had been dealt with, the Shodai turned back to his former student, who had just regained himself and tried to attack his late teacher. But instead, he was met with a sharp kick to the face, along with several more kicks and a strong punch to the face and another kick to the stomach that sent the old Kage flying back into the earth wall. "Well, I guess this isn't so bad," Jiraiya thought with a grin as he was face deep into Tsunade's chest after she was sent crashing into him. But just as he was thinking about coping a feel of the blonde woman's ample chest, he was stopped by a low growl. "Try it and you'll lose the arm, which I will then use to beat you to death," Tsunade said angrily, as if reading her teammate's mind. At first Jiraiya actually considered trying, thinking it would be a fair trade just to feel one of those two massive mounds in his hand for one moment. Since when would this opportunity ever appear again in his life? But he then decided it was best to leave it, since he might need both his arms for this battle. Oh well, at least I finally got to press my head on those heavenly things, which is more than I ever hoped to achieve in life," Jiraiya thought to himself. After Tsunade got off him. As soon as the two Sanin were back on their feet, they saw their former teacher being set flying back into the earth wall. Acting quickly, the two Sanin jumped over to their teacher and helped the old man back onto his feet. "You okay, sensei?" Jiraiya asked as he helped the Sandaime up. "Yes, I'm fine, Jiraiya, thank you," the Sandaime replied before glancing up at the Shodai, who just stared at the three shinobi and took a classic taijutsu stance. "It seems that their power has not waned in the slightest. Fighting them both will prove to be quite the challenge, even with the three of us working together." "No kidding," Jiraiya answered as his arms still felt slightly numb from the Shodai's kick. "Well, you didn't think this would be easy?" Tsunade rounded. "No," replied the Toad Sage. "But it would have been nice if was." When Jiraiya said this, Sarutobi suddenly noticed that the Nidaime Hokage was nowhere in sight, but before he could say or do anything, the late brother of Senju Hashirama appeared out of the water behind the three shinobi and grabbed hold of the Sandaime and dragged him into the water. Before Jiraiya and Tsunade could even attempt to help their sensei, the Shodai attacked, taking advantage of their distraction, where he delivered a sharp kick to Jiraiya's face. "Shit! Not again," the white-haired man thought as he was sent flying back, while Tsunade defended herself from her grandfather's taijutsu attacks. "You've become quite strong, Tsunade," commented the Shodais after his granddaughter dodged and blocked several of his more skillful taijutsu moves. "You've no idea how strong I've become," Tsunade replied, after ducking under one of her grandfather's punches and hitting him with a devastating punch to the stomach that sent the former Hokage crashing onto the tiles at the other end of the roof. Shortly after doing this, Tsunade then saw Sarutobi emerge from the water after escaping from her great-uncle. Together the two shinobi then quickly climbed up the earth wall, where Jiraiya was waiting, believing they would have the advantage of the high ground if they stood up here and could see any attacks coming. But no sooner had they reached the top, they came under attack from the Nidaime Hokage, who was still underwater and used the Suiton, Mizujari, water-style, water javelin, technique to fire several high-speed beams of water at the earth wall that easily pierced right through it, bringing the earth wall tumbling down. Fuck, we just can't catch a break," cried Jiraiya as he and the others landed back on the tiled roof. "We need to stay together. If they separate us, we're finished," said Tsunade. "Agreed," replied the Sandaime. "Well, I think we should be alright that way, since they're not too much here to keep us separate from one another," So we should be fine, as things can't get much worse than they are now. No sooner had Jiraiya said than the Toad Sage quickly realized he had spoken too soon as they suddenly felt the tile roof tremble. You just had to say it, didn't you, you idiot? Tsunade rounded angrily before they saw tree branches spring out from the roof tiles. This is not good, said the Sandaime. This is the secret technique that only the Shodai Hokage-sam could use, not even Yamato can use it. Mokuton Hijitsu, Jukai Koten, would release secret technique, nativity of a world of trees, said the Shodai Hokage as he channeled more of his chakra into the ground. As the Shodai continued to pour more chakra into the ground, the entire rooftop became covered by fast-growing trees. Sarutobi and the others tried to stay together, but they were eventually separate by the large trees, which eventually wrapped themselves around the three shinobi. Incredible, muttered Ao. So this is what a true master of Mokuton is capable of, truly amazing, the Mizukage remarked. When compared to his ancestor, Tsunade's son's skill in Mokuton is still worlds apart from the Shodai's. But still, over time the boy could possibly one day match his ancestor's prowess, especially if he is left unchecked. The Raikage thought with a frown. To think we would actually see Mokuton performed by two separate people on the same day, it's unbelievable, muttered C to himself. This is the same technique that is said to have created the entire forest that now surrounds Konoha, said the ANBU commander in awe after seeing the legendary technique. Seeing that his sensei and teammates were now separate and trapped in the binds of the Shodai's trees, Orochimaru slowly walked up to them. Kukukuku, looks like we've finally caught you all. Unwilling to give up, Tsunade began to flex her arms, in an attempt to break free. But even with her enhanced strength, it was not easy since the tree binds were incredibly strong thanks to her grandfather's chakra. At the same time Sarutobi was trying to reach a nearby tree branch to help him summon some backup. Eventually, after much struggle, the Sandaime finally reached the branch and placed his hand on it and shouted, Kuchios no Jutsu. Come forth, Monkey King Enma. As soon as Sarutobi had said this, a massive cloud of smoke suddenly appeared in front of him. Enter Naruto St Heavy Violence Dash. Looks like something troublesome has appeared, commented Orochimaru with an annoyed look. Heh, looks like the old man is finally getting serious. It's been a while since I've seen that old monkey Enma, Jiraiya said to himself after seeing Sarutobi's summons, before becoming serious again, knowing he had to escape now to help. Orochimaru, growled Enma when he saw the snake Sanin. I knew this day would come. You were a fool to let him go when you did, Sarutobi. You should have killed him when you had the chance. I intend to fix that mistake now, the old Hokage replied. Heh, it's too late, you've gotten too old, scoffed the old monkey. Perhaps, but I won't know until I try, so please Enma help me and turn into Kongonie, free-forming diamond pole. Hearing this, Orochimaru quickly ordered the two deceased Hokages to attack, knowing how difficult things would get if he allowed Enma to take on his staff form. Acting quickly, the two Hokages ran towards the elder monkey from two separate directions. But before Enma could defend himself, the two Hokages were intercepted by Tsunade and Jiraiya, who had broken free of their binds, where the former used her enhanced strength to free herself and the lesser used the Rasengan, spiraling ball, to break the binds. After freeing herself from her binds, Tsunade immediately jumped into the air above the Nidaime Hokage and used her Tsutenkyaku to send her great uncle crashing down through the tree and onto the roof tiles below. At the same time, Jiraiya appeared in front of the Shodai Hokage and blocked the Shodai's kick with his left arm, before brining up a newly formed Rasengan in his right hand, and slammed it into the Konoha founder's stomach, sending him flying. Jiraiya, Tsunade, what are you two doing here? The Monkey King asked in surprise. No time to explain. Hurry up and change! Tsunade yelled as she eyed her late great-uncle who was already getting back up on his feet. Right, said the Monkey King, where he jumped into the air and prepared to transform. If those two are here to help, we might actually stand a chance of winning. Once Enma transformed into his staff form, he immediately flew towards his bound friend and destroyed his wooden binds. As soon as Sarutobi was free, the Sandaime quickly took hold of Enma and fell into a Bojutsu stance, where he was then flanked by his two late students, and the Shodai and Nidaime Hokages, who had recovered and were now flanking the three shinobi. Amazing! What a battle! Is this what a battle between Kage-level shinobi is like? The ANBU commander asked himself. Well, it seems that I have no choice but to join the battle now, Orochimaru muttered to himself, before he opened his mouth to an inhuman width, allowing a large snake to emerge from it, which then opened its mouth as well and produced a long straight sword. Kusanagi no Tsurugi, grass-cutting sword. The Sandaime thought when he saw the sword. Looks like Orochimaru is also getting serious. Jiraiya thought with a frown, knowing what this meant. Sensei, you and Enma go deal with Orochimaru, Tsunade, and I will handle these two. Jiraiya said without taking his eyes off the Shodai. Are you certain? The Sandaime asked. Yes, now go. Tsunade yelled, fearing that the two Hokages would attack before Sarutobi could go. Very well then, let's go, Enma. The Sandaime yelled as he prepared to attack. Even though my pole form is as hard as diamond, the Kusanagi no Tsurugi can still hurt me, spoke Enma. Nodding to this, Sarutobi quickly raced forward to engage his fallen student, while his other two former students fought and held back the two Konoha founders. After jumping into the air, Sarutobi had Enma extend his pole form and aim it at Orochimaru, who immediately flipped sideways to avoid the pole and moved back several feet, where he then faced off against his former teacher. For the next few minutes the two Kage-level shinobi fought in a fierce battle, and despite his advanced age, the old Hokage proved to be more than a match for fallen student. So much so that Orochimaru was even forced of the defensive, blocking and avoiding most of Sarutobi's attacks. Eventually, though, Sarutobi was able to gain the advantage further by extending Enma forward again, forcing Orochimaru to block the staff with the flat side of his sword. When he did this, Enma's arm suddenly sprang out of his pole form and grabbed hold of the fallen Sanin's neck, choking the life out of him. And Naruto OST heavy violence dash. Orochimaru, this is end for you. I'm going to wring that neck of yours with my bare hands, just as I should have done years ago, growled the Monkey King as he continued to choke Orochimaru. But just when he had the snake Sanin, Orochimaru reverted into mud, revealing he had replaced himself with a Doton Kage Bunshin. After escaping the Monkey King's grip, the real Orochimaru appeared out of the mud of his clone. But no sooner had he appeared, the Sandaime sent the rogue Sanin flying backwards with a powerful swing with Enma. Moments after doing this, two objects came crashing down on opposite sides near the Sandaime. When the dust settled, the Sandaime saw that the two objects were the Shodai and Nidaime Hokages, who were badly damaged. On closer inspection, the Sandaime could see that the Nidaime's right arm had been ripped off and the Shodai had a large hole in his stomach. Shortly after, both Jiraiya and Tsunade appeared next to the Sandaime. Both looked slightly ruffled and had a few light injuries. But other than that, both Sanin looked to be in good condition. I'm pleased to see that both of you are okay. Hey, you won't get rid of us that easily, old man, Jiraiya joked. Yes, the battle is over, the Hokage-sama, Jiraiya-sama and Tsunade-sama have won, said one of the ANBU excitedly, believing that with the two Hokages down, Orochimaru would be finished. I would not be so certain of that, the ANBU commander said somberly, where he then pointed at the two Hokages, who were already regenerating. Once they had fully recovered, they stood up as if nothing had happened. Shit, Jiraiya quietly cursed. As if things weren't hard enough. As I thought, they are invulnerable to damage, due to the fact that they are already dead. I fear that the only way we can defeat them is if I use the Yandaime's technique, Sarutobi said. Sensei, you can't, Jiraiya said. You know what will happen if you use that technique, Tsunade warned. Yes, I am aware, but it is our only chance in defeating the Shodai and Nidaime Hokages. No, it isn't, there are other ways, Jiraiya said. If we can keep Orochimaru away and separate the Shodai and the Nidaime, we can seal them up one at a time. But listen to me, Sensei, you may be eager to give your life up, but there's no way I'm going to let you, at least not without a fight. I already failed to stop Minato sacrificing himself when the Kyuubi attacked, but I won't let you do the same thing. Not until all other options have been exhausted, so until then don't give up on us. For once I agree with the pervert, Tsunade said as she joined in on the conversation. The time hasn't come, something like that. The village still needs a Hokage. It needs you. After hearing his former student's stubborn refusal and letting him use the Shiki Fujin, dead demon consuming seal, to stop the two deceased Hokages, the Sandaime could only smirk in amusement. Very well then, we will continue to try, although I fear it may eventually come to it, sooner or later. Kukuku. Orochimaru chuckled as he stood back up. I must say I'm rather impressed with how well the three of you are faring. You're putting up a much better fight than I had anticipated, but still you are only delaying the inevitable, for you will all die here today. We'll see about, replied the Sandaime as he held Enma up. Oh, come now, Sensei, there is no need for false bravado, Orochimaru mocked. I can also see that you are getting tired, you've aged quite a bit, and do not have the stamina you once had, fufufu. It's true that I have aged, but it does not mean I am dead yet. Hearing this, Orochimaru just chuckled again. Kukukuku, it's rather pitiful at how you, the man who was hailed as the Kami no Shinobi, god of shinobi, cannot beat old age. After saying this, Orochimaru then began to pull on his face, before ripping it off, like a mask, revealing a female face. What the? Said the ANBU commander. What going on? Ao said in shock. I have no idea, replied the Mizukage, who was just as much in shock as Ao. Reikage-sama, what's going on? Who is that? She asked, but received no answer, as the bulky Kage was just as horrified at what he was seeing as everyone else, and could not comprehend what he had just seen. So, he really did it. Jiraiya thought angrily, as this had confirmed everything he had feared. Who are you? The confused Sandaime Hokage yelled, as he didn't understand what he was seeing. Sensei, that's Orochimaru. Jiraiya answered. Orochimaru. But how? Asked Tsunade, who couldn't understand what was going on. No, don't tell me you've actually completed that forbidden jutsu that you began all those years ago? The Sandaime asked in horror. At the Sandaime question, the snake Sanin just laughed, confirming Sarutobi's worst fears. You're not human anymore, you're a demon, yelled old Hokage in rage. You monster Orochimaru, you don't deserve to be called human anymore, shouted Tsunade, who had heard what Orochimaru had been trying to achieve before he was forced to leave Konoha, from Jiraiya. Kukuku, and pray tell why I should care about being something as low as human? The snake Sanin asked in amusement. Jiraiya, you knew that he had completed that jutsu? The Sandaime asked as he glanced at his former student. Yes. The toad Sanin answered sadly. I wanted to spare you both the news since I knew how much it would hurt you when you learned of it. Damn you, Orochimaru! Tsunade yelled. Mark my words, before this day is done, there will be one less Sanin in the world. Now I understand the depth of my mistake. I was a blind fool not to have killed you when I had a chance. Sarutobi said. Don't take on all the blame, Sensei. I'm just as much at fault. I could have stopped him later on when he fled. But in the end I couldn't do it either, Jiraiya said as he balled his fist in anger as he watched his former friend laugh at their anger. This is exactly why I wouldn't recommend you to become the Yondaime Hokage. Your twisted ideas and desire for immortality would have brought disaster to the village. Sarutobi said angrily. My immortality technique keeps a person's soul and mind in this world forever. In other words, it is like a reincarnation technique, where after I find a new body, I transfer my soul and mind into that body and take it over. The only reason I had my old face on was because I wanted to see the delight on all your faces when you saw me again. That's why you want Sasuke and Naruto. You're hoping to use one of them as your next body. Tsunade yelled in anger, realizing Orochimaru's true goal. Quite correct, my dear. In fact, once I've captured them, I'm hoping to find a way to combine both their powers together, where I would then have the two most perfect vessels imaginable. Such a disturbing jutsu, it is truly sickening, commented the Shodai Hokage as he moved next to Orochimaru after he had finished listening to Orochimaru's explanation of his immortality technique and his plans of Naruto and Sasuke. Indeed, replied the Nidaime Hokage, who was also disgusted by what he had heard after walking next to the snake Sanin. Even the Mizukage and the Reikage, who were watching from outside the barrier, were disgusted by what they had heard. It had also confirmed everything they had heard about the former Sanin and proven without a doubt that the man had fallen far from grace or redemption. You monster! Roared Tsunade in anger after hearing what Orochimaru planned to do to her son and took a step forward in anger. I won't let you touch him. Kukukuku, my dear Tsunade, you act as if you have a choice in the matter. As we speak, my subordinates are tracking young Naruto-kun and Sasuke-kun down, and by then the three of you will be dead. You bastard! Cried the furious Tsunade, as she was about to take another step forward, but was stopped by Jiraiya, who knew that Orochimaru was just goading her again into attacking him. Calm down, Heim, he's just goading you again. Don't worry about the kid, he's not one to go down easy. Besides, he has Kushina, Shizen, Yamato and the others looking out for him. After hearing this, Tsunade slowly started to calm down, but even so it was not by much, as she was still glaring furious at her former friend, and had every intention of killing him and making him suffer for all his crimes. Just how many people have you used this despicable jutsu on? The Sandaime asked in outrage. I believe this would be my second host, and I plan to do the same to either Sasuke-kun or Naruto-kun after they have grown to my liking. Over my dead body you will. My dear Tsunade, that is exactly the plan. Orochimaru replied with a sadistic grin before he had his face revert into his original face, and then ordered the Shodai Hokage to attack. Who used his Mokuton powers to grow even more trees, enveloping the entire space inside the barrier with them, making it difficult for the observers to see inside. Hokage-sama / Jiraiya-sama / Tsunade-sama, cried the three Anbu together. Inside the barrier, the three Konoha shinobi stayed inside Enma's Kongo Rohiki, Vajra prison wall, which protected them from the Shodai's attack. Huh, nice going, you old monkey, you probably just saved our hides, Jiraiya said as he let out a sigh of relief. At the same time, Jiraiya noticed a strange look over his teacher's face. Hey old man, are you okay? This is all my fault, everything that happened since that day. All of this could have been avoided if I had just killed him back then. But when I had the chance, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. The Sannin thought with a mixture of sadness and anger as he thought back to that night when he raided Orochimaru's hidden lair. But now I will correct my past mistake and kill him. Enter Naruto. Need to be strong. After reaffirming his resolve to kill his fallen student, a strong, determined look appeared on the old man's face, a look that none of his students had seen in their sensei face in a long time. Touching one of Enna's poles that made up the protective prison around them, Sarutobi had the Monkey King revert into his single pole form, where he then once again took a Bojutsu stance and yelled, Jiraiya, Tsunade, Enma, let's go! I'll need you all to back me up. Hi! The two Sannin replied as stood side by side with their teacher and attacked. For the next few minutes, the observers outside the barrier watched as the battle between the 6 Kage-level shinobi became even more furious. But eventually during the battle, their ability to see inside the barrier ended when the Shodai Hokage used the Genjutsu, Kokwanji no Jutsu, illusionary technique, bringer of darkness technique, to obscure everyone's view of the battle. And Naruto need to be strong outside the barrier. Once the Genjutsu blocked the observer's view of the battle, Haku and Chojuro suddenly appeared on the rooftop, and quickly made their way over to the village leader. Mizukage-sama! Called the two genin when they saw their leader. Haku, Chojuro, I am pleased to see that you are both unharmed, the female Kage said. As are we of you, Mizukage-sama, replied Haku. What are you two doing here, and where is Zabuza and your teammate Saido? Ao asked with a disapproving look when he saw the two genin. Zabuza-sama and Saido-kun are with Daimyo-sama, and are ensuring that no harm befalls to him in the battle below, answered Haku. Zabuza-sensei also told us to report to you and to ask you if we should try to leave the village with Daimyo-sama or find a safe location and wait the battle out, finished Chojuro. Mizukage-sama, we should leave the village at once with the Daimyo-sama. This battle is Konoha's problem, it does not concern us, said Ao. At first the Mizukage did not respond to what Ao had said, and remained silent, as she weighed over her options, but after a minute or so she came to a decision. Haku, I want you and Chojuro to head back to Zabuza and tell him to get the Daimyo-sama to a safe location. Once he is safe, he is to assist any and all Konoha shinobi in the defense of their village. As of this moment, Kiri stands with Konoha. Mizukage, you can't! Ao shouted in shock. This war has nothing to do with us, there is no need for us to get involved. Actually there is, remember we came here to Konoha not only to participate in the Chunin exam, but to also try and form an alliance with it. With Tsunade's betrayal, the chance for an alliance between our two villages has drastically increased. Furthermore, by helping Konoha we can curry some good favor with the people, and show them that Kiri has truly changed from its bloody past, which could help our village greatly later on. Also need I remind you that Orochimaru is also wanted in Kiri for several crimes against our village. We have an opportunity here that could benefit our village greatly, and we will take it. But, stuttered Ao, as he tried to argue, but before he could say anything the female Kage spoke again. Enough! I have made my decision, we will aid Konoha, Mei said in an authoritative voice, showing why she had been selected as the Godame Mizukage. After settling the argument with Ao, Mei then quickly turned to the two genin. Now once the Daimyo-sama has been secured, I want you two and Saido to stay with him and make sure that he stays safe. Hi Mizukage-sama. The two genin replied before they took off. Soon after they left, Ao and the Mizukage shunshin down into the stands to help in the battle. But as Haku and Chojuro made their way back down to the stands, Haku suddenly turned and headed out into the village. Haku, where are you going? Yelled Chojuro when he saw his teammate take off in a different direction. The Mizukage told us to report to Zabuza-sensei and secure the Daimyo-sama. I have something else I need to do. You go to Zabuza-sama and inform him of the Mizuki's orders. You and Saito-kun will be enough to protect the daimyo-sama. Before Chojuro could say anything more, the young girl took off, leaving only small snowflakes behind. At the same time, when the Mizuki came to her decision to help the Konoha, the Raikage and his subordinates were discussing the same issue. Boss, what should we do now? Dari asked as he turned to the Raikage. I say, we get Bidano, the daimyo-sama, Yujito and the others and leave the village. This battle is Konoha's problem, not ours. Let the Konoha dogs fight their own battles, said C, who, like many Kumo shinobi, did not have a great deal of respect for the Leaf Village or its shinobi, due to their village's strong rivalry. Agreed. Once we have secured the daimyo-sama and met up with B and the others, we leave this village, said the Raikage. If we're lucky, Konoha and Suna will take care of each other, or at the very least they'll weaken each enough to allow us to take advantage of the incident. Nodding to this, the two Kumonins took off with their Kage and made their way down below the stands. In the village, as the battle on the rooftop of the stadium continued, Naruto and his companies made their way through the village, doing their best to avoid the heavy fighting that was going on in the village between the Konoha forces and the invading Suna and Oto forces. Geez, why the hell do we even have to go through all this trouble? I don't even like Sasuke, mumbled Shikamaru as they made their way through a small alleyway to avoid some fighting between some Konoha shinobi and Sunanins. Shut up, Shikamaru, Sakura rounded as she turned to the lazy Nara. Sasuke-kun needs our help, so we're going. She's right, Shikamaru. Whether you like it or not, we need to go help Sasuke. I'll admit Sasuke and I don't exactly see eye to eye all the time. But he is still a Konoha shinobi and our comrade, and he needs our help, said Naruto. Come on, you lot, enough talking. We need to get out of the village as quickly as possible before any enemy shinobi spots us, said Pakin. I think it's a little late for that, Ino said when they came to a sudden stop and saw the masked Anbu standing at the end of the alley accompanied by two masked Otonins. Quickly Naruto and the other turned to go back to the other end of the alley but found 3 more Otonins blocking the way they came. Also they noticed 4 more Oto shinobi who were looking down at them from the rooftops of the 2 buildings that flanked the alleyway. Shit, we're surrounded, Naruto cursed inside his mind before leaning over to the Nara Heir. Shikamaru, do you have any smoke bombs on you? A couple, but they won't do us any good. We're confined to this alleyway and surrounded on all sides, the shadow user replied, already figuring out what Naruto was thinking. Trust me, I have a plan. Just have them ready when I give the signal. Not sure what Naruto had planned, the young Nara just nodded. After which the genin attention was soon turned to the masked Anbu, who suddenly spoke in a slightly muffled voice that was strangely familiar to Sakura and Naruto. Senju Naruto, we have orders to take you with us. Surrender peacefully, and you will be unharmed. Really? Naruto asked calmly as he walked forward from the group and held his arms behind his back. And let me guess who gave you those orders. Orochimaru, since he is the leader of Hokage after all. Orochimaru! Ino cried in shock, who had been unaware of this. You serious? Shikamaru asked in equal shock. Yeah, back when we ran into him in the Forest of Death, he had the symbol for Oto on his headband, so it isn't hard to figure out that he is the one leading Oto. Hold on a sec, Ino said. Are you saying that it was Orochimaru who defeated you back then? Yeah, he was. Geez, he's like a magnet for trouble, Shikamaru thought. Taking on a Sanin by himself, that's just insane. He doesn't know how lucky he is to be alive. Yes, you are correct. We follow Orochimaru-sama. Now will you surrender peacefully or not? The Anbu answered. And what if I were to refuse? Then we will capture you by force and kill your friends, the Anbu replied. But if you surrender, they will be allowed to go, unharmed, as our interest lies only with you. Why do I get the feeling that if I do, they'll be killed anyhow? Naruto thought with a small frown. Well then I guess I have no choice but to, now, the blonde boy said as he used his hands behind his back to count down and signal Shikamaru to drop the bombs. As soon as the Nara dropped the handful of smoke bombs, the entire alleyway filled up with smoke. After which Naruto moved over to the wall on his left side and used his superhuman strength to punch a hole through the wall, allowing the young genin to escape through it. Good work, you two, congratulated Pakin. Thanks, replied Naruto as they ran through the building and out into the abandoned street, which had a few dead bodies of a few Oto, Suna and Konoha shinobi in it. After about a minute or so, the group came to a stop in the fork in the street. Which way do we go now? Sakura asked. This way. Pakin answered after sniffing the air and pointing down the street to his left with his right paw. Now come on before those Oto goons catch up with us. You guys go that way, I'll go this way, Naruto said as he pointed to the opposite street. What? But we need to stick together, Ino said. Look, you all heard that ANBU guy. They're after me, not you. I lead them away while you go after Sasuke. There's no way we're going to leave you to face all those guys by yourself, Sakura said. Listen, they won't kill me, they want me alive, so I should be fine. He's right, Ino, Shikamaru said, who knew that to win a game a player must be willing to sacrifice a piece. But even so, this was real life and it made decisions like this all the harder, especially since it was a friend who was sacrificing himself, and Shikamaru did not like this. Then I go with you as well, Ino volunteered as she moved towards Naruto, but was stopped by the spiky-haired boy. No, it's better if I go alone. My chances of losing them are better if I am alone. Besides, Sasuke is going to need all the help he can get if he's going against Gaara. I'll catch up with the rest of you as soon as I lose them. I agree with Naruto, Pakin said suddenly. If we want to get to Sasuke in time, he will need to lead them away, otherwise they'll just keep coming after us. Seeing that it was 3 against 2, the girls finally relented. After wishing Naruto good luck, the 3 genin and the Niken quickly made their way down the street. As they did, Naruto suddenly saw the fake ANBU and the Otonins making their way towards him by jumping over the rooftops. Gaining their attention, Naruto then ran down the street hoping to lead them away from Shikamaru and the girls. There he is, said one of the Otonins as he pointed to Naruto as he ran down the street. Wait, said the fake ANBU as he stopped the other Otonins. He's trying to lead us away from the others. So what? Our orders are to capture him, not those kids, said one of the Oto shinobi. Our orders were also to make sure that they did not interfere with Gaara, which is why all of you are to go after them and make sure they don't. But what about him? The same Otonin asked. Leave Naruto-kun to me, answered the ANBU, which of course made the Otonins frown, but none of them dared disobey him and nodded before racing after Shikamaru and the girls, leaving Naruto to the fake ANBU. After a few minutes of running, Naruto looked back to see if any sign of the Oto shinobi. Seeing no sign of the enemy shinobi, the Senju heir thought about making a Kage Bunshin, Shadown clone, of himself and using the clone to lead the perusing shinobi further away. While he hid somewhere and waited for them to pass him by, this would then allow him to catch up Shikamaru and the girls. But before Naruto could even do this, he suddenly heard the familiar whooshing sounds, kunai flying through the air. Acting quickly, Naruto jumped to his left, narrowly avoiding the projectiles, which stabbed the ground he had been just standing on a moment ago. As soon as Naruto had avoided the kunai, he saw the fake ANBU landing directly in front of him, a few meters apart. Where are your friends? Naruto asked, while at the same time glancing around him, making sure that none of the Otonins were trying to sneak up on him and attack him from different directions. Oh, I just sent them after your friends. I decided to deal with you myself, answered the fake ANBU. Hearing this, Naruto silently cursed, since his plan had completely backfired on him, and he now need to get back with Shikamaru and the others as quickly as possible. Well then, I guess I don't have time to waste, Naruto said. Enter Naruto Oestiraikiri dash. No, you don't, the ANB replied before he began to preform several hand seals. Those hand seals, so he knows Iryo ninjutsu, medical ninja techniques, Naruto thought as he recognized the hand seals that the fake ANBU was preforming, which were for Chakura no Mezu, chakra scalpels. Once the fake ANBU had finished the necessary hand seals, his hands began to glow bright blue, proving what Naruto had already guessed. After which the fake ANBU disappeared into the ground, leaving only a large hole in the spot he had just been standing in. Shit, Mogirigaku no Jutsu, hiding like a mole technique, thought Naruto, realizing what the fake ANBU had just done. Acting quickly, Naruto jumped up into the air, narrowly avoiding the masked ANBU, who had just appeared out of the ground underneath him. Wasting no time, Naruto struck back using his enhanced strength and brought his right fist down on the enemy shinobi, hoping to end the fight with one blow. But instead missed him and hit the ground, as the masked man proved to be quite fast. Undeterred, Naruto chased after the fake ANBU and attempted a powerful right kick, using his inhuman-like strength again. But like the last time, the fake ANBU avoided Naruto's attack by ducking under the kick and letting Naruto fly past him, who smashed right through a wall that was behind the man. Emerging from the new hole in the wall, Naruto tried to attack the fake ANBU again, but before he could reach him, The fake ANBU disappeared in a blur and reappeared behind the blonde, who tried to avoid him, but was too slow, where the fake ANBU touched his right arm and thigh. After which he then jumped away from the young Senju when he tried to punch him. After landing a few meters away from Naruto, the fake ANBU was pleased to see Naruto fall to his knees and holding his right arm. My arms and leg, the blonde thought, realizing that the fake ANBU had done something. As you may have just noticed, I have weakened the muscles in your right bicep and thigh. Just enough to slow your movements down and prevent you from using that incredible strength of yours. The fake ANBU said before continuing. After being trained by the foremost expert in Iryo ninjutsu, you of all people should know how lethal chakra scalpels are. With it, I could sever an artery or puncture your heart without even breaking the skin. Then why don't you? That I am afraid takes careful aim and a long blade, both of which are difficult to accomplish in the heat of battle, as you well know. Although I could probably achieve this, it would go against my orders, which are to capture you alive. So perhaps you could save us both a great deal of time and effort, and give up now, that way you can also save yourself a great deal of pain. Ha, arrogant bastard. Naruto thought before smirking at the fake ANBU. If you think that I will just lay down and give up, you don't know the first thing about me. I figured you would say something like that. The masked spy replied with a small sigh before racing towards Naruto with remarkable speed. With little time to spare, Naruto brought up both his arms to defend himself where he deflected several strikes from the masked man, while he was using his Chakura no Mezu. After ducking under another strike, Naruto attempted a leg sweep, hoping to catch the masked ANBU off guard. But instead the fake ANBU avoided the leg swipe by jumping into the air and then placing his hand right on Naruto's chest, causing the spiky-haired boy to fall to his knees in pain. Aga! Damn it, he hit my inner intercostal. Can't breathe. Naruto thought as he struggled to catch his breath, before glancing up at his masked opponent, who was standing over him. This guy, he's no ordinary medic nin, he's faster and more precise than me when using Chakura no Mezu. He might be just as good if not better than Shizune, even Ka-chan would probably have a hard time with him. I have to be careful not to hit anything too vital. If you were to die unexpectedly, Orochimaru-sama would be greatly displeased with me. The fake ANBU said in a mocking tone, as he held up his hand and deactivated his chakra scalpels. But still you won't be moving anytime soon. But no sooner had he said this, Naruto stood up and delivered a devastating left punch to the man's stomach, sending the Odo spy flying through the air and crashing through a stone wall. And Naruto Osdiraikiri dash. ACK! Cried the fake ANBU member as he spat out some blood behind his mask, before it began to crack and shatter when he went through a stone wall. After which he landed hard on the floor in the middle of a large room of the building he crashed into. I underestimated him. He shouldn't be able to stand, let alone fight this well given everything he went through today, and the injuries I dealt him. But then again, he is the son of one of the Sanin. I guess I cannot afford to play with him anymore. It would be so much easier if I could just kill him. But Orochimaru-sama's orders were clear and I cannot disobey him. After sending the fake ANBU crashing through the stone wall, Naru immediately fell to his knees in pain and held his chest. Damn it, that was close. I'm lucky that bastard got cocky and let his guard down. Now I need to heal the damage he did and get back to Shikamaru and the girls, fast. Naruto thought as he performed some hand seals and used a Shozen Jutsu, mystical palm technique, to heal his internal injuries. Just as Naruto healed the damage done to his chest leg and was about to heal his arm, the blonde boy saw movement coming from the hole that the fake ANBU made when he was smashed through it. No way! He couldn't have recovered so quickly after that. Naruto thought in shock. I hit him dead on with full force. Soon enough the Odo spy emerged from the hole in the wall, a little wobbly, but fine otherwise. The only difference being that he no longer had his mask, which allowed Naruto to see his face. Kabuto! Naruto spat out angrily, recognizing Odo spy's face. We meet again, Naruto-kun, greeted the gray-haired youth with an arrogant smirk. I knew there was a reason why I didn't like you, the blonde Senju said angrily. Yes, with the exception of Sakura-chan, you and the others never really trusted me, the bispectral shinobi mocked. Tell me, what was it that gave me away? You were always too eager to help, especially to people you didn't even know, like when you gave information on other opponents freely to us at the beginning of the exam, without asking for anything in return. Not to mention when you stopped Sakura-chan from opening the scroll and having us disqualified from the exam, which I'm guessing was to make sure that Sasuke and me made it to the finals. You also seemed to be stronger than you let on, At first I thought that was to make people underestimate you in the exam. But after you quit so suddenly in the preliminaries, without even trying, I knew there was something off about you. Yes, very good Naruto-kun, and I suppose you're right. It seems I did overplay my part when I pretended to be a weak, but friendly participant in the exam. The Odo spy said as he continued to smirk at Naruto. Tell me, how is it that you were able to recover so quickly? Naruto asked. You shouldn't be able to get up after being hit like that. Hey, you're not the only gifted shinobi in the world, Naruto-kun. Like you, I have many gifts. One of them being my natural talents for Iryo Ninjutsu, where I developed a technique called Inyushometsu, in healing wound destruction. By anticipating the spot an enemy will attack, I concentrate my chakra to that area and begin a cell recreation process right before the targeted area becomes damaged. So for as long as I have chakra, I can completely heal any damage that you do to me. When Kabuto finished, Naruto silently swore to himself, since this made things a whole lot more difficult. Crap, as if things weren't hard enough, even if I somehow beat this prick or get away from him. It won't be without some cost, and I might not be in any state to help Sasuke and the others if I get to them in time. Hoping to gain some sort of advantage, Naruto fired several poison-tipped Saban needles at Kabuto, who easily evaded them, but when he moved away, Naruto threw some smoke bombs that contained a strong knockout gas that could even render a shinobi like Kabuto unconscious in moments. Inhaling even a bit of this would be dangerous, thought Kabuto, as the smoke enveloped him. But just when Naruto thought he had won, he felt a pair of hands grab his legs and realized that Kabuto had used the Mogirigaku no Jutsu again to escape the gas and tunnel underneath him. Realizing he needed to do something quickly, Naruto gathered as much chakra as he could into his left fist and slammed it into the ground, pulverizing the street and creating a large crater around him. Once the dust settled, Kabuto, who had somewhat escaped damage, emerged from the ground a few feet away from the Senju. My, that was rather close, Kabuto commented with his usual arrogant smirk. Well, let's see you try and dodge this, Naruto yelled as he performed some hand seals and shouted. Mokuton, Mokushiku, would release, wooden tentacles. When Naruto shouted this, several dozen wooden tentacles erupted from the ground around Kabuto, forcing the silver-haired youth to jump up into the air to avoid them. After evading all the wooden tentacles, Kabuto then landed on one of the larger tentacles, where he then saw Naruto racing up the wooden tentacle before punching him right in the face. But just as Naruto had punched him, Kabuto reverted into a large wooden log, revealing he had replaced himself at the last second. Looking around, Naruto soon saw Kabuto standing on the ground below him. Annoyed by the arrogant smirk of the elder boy, Naruto fired several large wooden spikes from hands, which Kabuto easily dealt with, by cutting them in half with his chakra scalpels. This of course surprised Naruto, since the wooden objects he made were very strong and could not be easily cut or destroyed. After destroying Naruto's wooden spikes, Kabuto watched as the son of Tsunade jumped down from the wooden tentacles he was standing on and face off against him again. Wanting to end this quickly and get Naruto to a secure location, Kabuto raced towards the blonde boy, but just as he crossed half the distance between them, he was forced to jump back, when he noticed a large hail of kunai, shuriken and senbon's needles falling from the sky towards him. As soon as he avoided all the projectiles, which now littered the ground in front of him, Kabuto noticed that 3 young girls had now appeared in front of Naruto. These girls were none other than Niyujito of Kumogakure, Hidden Cloud, Yuki Haku of Kirigakure, Hidden Mist, and Hattori Mai of Amigakure, Hidden Rain. When Kabuto saw the 3 kunoichi, he knew things had gotten a lot more difficult, given how skilled each of the girls were. Haku-chan, Yujito-chan, Mai-chan, what are you 3 doing here? A confused Naruto asked when he saw the 3 girls appear in front of him, who were all staring at Kabuto careful. Heh, what does it look like? We're saving your sorry ass. Yujito replied with a small smirk and glanced back at Naruto, all the while keeping a watch on Kabuto, who had yet to move. The 3 of us met up, when we were looking for you, and when we saw your Mokushiku, we headed straight here. Not that I don't appreciate the help, but why are you 3 here? Naruto asked. This is my village's fight, it doesn't involve any of your villages. It seems that is no longer the case with my village, as the Mizukage has ordered Zabuza-sama and the rest of us to assist your village in this battle. Haku replied, surprising both Naruto and Kabuto at the news. Same here, Yujito replied. B-sensei decided that we would help you all out this time. Besides, I told you before, if anyone is going to defeat you, it's me, so I won't let you die until I have another rematch. You're going to have to get in like Nico girl, because if anyone is going to have a rematch with him, it's me. Mai spoke suddenly before she turned around and grabbed Naruto by the collar and brought him right up to her angry face. And after what you did to me, you owe me. What did I do? Naruto asked, not sure what the girl meant. You damn well know what you did. The girl shouted angrily. You helped back on our fight. Not only do you possess superhuman strength, but you also have the same kind of affinity for Suiten ninjutsu as the Nidaime Hokage, not to mention you can use Mokuton. Do you know how humiliating it was to watch your battle with Nico girl over there and realize how much you had held back on our fight? Hey, listen Mai-chan, I can explain, I had a good reason for not using my other abilities. A now nervous Naruto said as he tried to calm the angrily girl down. I don't care what your excuses are. The aim Kunoichi rounded. Once this battle is over, you and I are going to have a rematch, and this time you're going to use all your abilities. Also, don't you dare think I have forgotten what you did after that battle with Nico girl. At the mention of the incident, both Naruto and Yujito blushed slightly, while an irritated look appeared on Haku's face. That was an accident, my body just gave out when I was going to help Yujito-chan up, I swear. Naruto explained. Oh, and you just happened to land on her chest when you did? Mai asked with a disbelieving look. It was an accident, I swear. Naruto pleaded, who was starting to sweat a little, since Mai was not someone he wanted to piss off. Well then, you're going to have to make it up to me, by going out on a date with me. The brunette girl said, causing Naruto and the two girls to look at her in surprise. A date? Repeated Naruto with a slight blush, as he thought about the idea of him and Mai on a date together. Yes, are you serious? Yujito asked as she turned to look at Mai in disbelief at how she just asked Naruto out on a date when they were in the middle of a battlefield. Stay out of this, Nico girl. This is between my fiancé and me? Mai said, where she let go of Naruto and turned to Yujito. Fiancé? Well, this is certainly interesting news. Kabuto thought to himself as he watched the drama in front of him unfold. He's not your fiancé. A now very irritated Haku said suddenly. You just declared yourself his fiancé after he defeated you. His own mother refuses to acknowledge you as his fiancé. TSK, as if she has any say in the matter. Mai scoffed. Naruto-kun and I are clearly a perfect match for one another, as we are clearly the two strongest fighters in the exam. Oh really? Asked Yujito with a sarcastic tone. And that would explain how you only made it to the preliminaries, before you were knockout. At the mention of this a large tick formed on Mai's head. That was only because I was facing Naruto-kun. If you and I had fought then, I would have been the one who fought him in the semifinals. Unlike you, I rely on my own powers, not another. After hearing Mai's retort, a large frown appeared on Yujito's face, knowing what the aim girl meant. Hey, that's tough talk coming from someone from one of the minor villages. You want to go at it? Mai asked, who was angered at how Yujito just insulted her village, before taking out her two new fans and opening them up. Well, I'm more than ready to go at it if you are, Nico girl. Just don't go crying when I send you back to Kumo with your tail between your legs. Hey, I would be more worried about the Kiri girl here than you. At least she would be a challenge. Yujito sneered, which annoyed not only Mai, but also Haku. Excuse me? Haku asked in an annoyed tone, not liking what Yujito was stating in regards to her. Stay out of this, Ice Princess. This is between Nico girl and me, Mai stated. I do not take orders from you, Mai-san. Haku replied, where the three girls proceeded to glare at one another. It got so bad that Naruto, who was watching the argument from the sidelines, could have swore that he saw lightning emanating out of the girls' eyes as they glared at one another. Can I say something? Naruto asked, in an attempt to calm the situation. What? Rounded the three girls, where they all turned to Naruto with angry looks on their faces. Nothing, never mind, Naruto said meekly, who was intimidated by the looks they were giving him and did not want to be caught in the middle of the spat between the three Kanasahai. Fortunately, though, before things could get out of hand, a sudden distraction came in the form of Baki and a dozen Suna shinobi, who were all clearly jonin. During the battle in the stadium, Baki had noticed Naruto leaving and realized that the blonde Senju was going after Sasuke and Gaara. Knowing he needed to keep Naruto away from his student, Baki quickly gathered 3 teams of Suna shinobi and went after the Senju heir, and eliminate him before he could reach Gaara. Kabuto, what's going on here? Why are you playing around with these kids? You need to deal with that boy before he can get to Gaara and use his Mokuton powers, Baki said angrily. Ah, Baki-san, excellent timing. Kabuto greeted. I was actually about to capture Naruto-kun, but as you can see, some unexpected complications appeared. So if you would be so kind, perhaps you and your men here could help me deal with them. That way we can finish things off nice and quick without further trouble. Great out of the frying pan and into the fire, muttered Naruto when he saw the Suna shinobi preparing to attack. Remember Baki-san, Orochimaru-sama wants Naruto-san alive, and you would do well to remember that. Kabuto warned. After hearing Kabuto forbidding him from harming the Senju heir, Baki frowned in anger. He was a veteran shinobi of many years, who had fought in countless battles and was one of Suna's best, and yet he was being ordered about like some underling by a boy half his age, who was from another village. But despite his anger, the seasoned Jonin knew when to swallow his pride and that the mission came first. So after quickly getting over his annoyance, Baki ordered his men to attack, who unleashed a hail of kunai at the four youths. Before Naruto or the girls could even try to defend themselves, a massive wooden dome appeared in front of them and blocked the hail of kunai. This was then followed by several dozen wooden spikes that sprung out of the ground and nearly impaled Kabuto and the Suna shinobi, forcing them to jump back. Shortly after, the wooden dome around the genin retreated back into the ground. Nice going, Naruto-kun, Mai said as she turned to her fiancé. That wasn't me, Naruto replied. But then who else could use Mokuton? Yujito asked in surprise since last she checked Naruto was the only Mokuton user alive. Him, the blonde boy replied, where he then pointed to his sensei Yamato who had appeared in front of the four genin. Thanks Yamato-sensei, but what are you doing here? When you and the others left to go after Sasuke-san, I noticed that the fake Anbu bear and several Odo and Suna shinobi had gone after you, so I decided to follow you as well to assist. Naruto-kun, what is going on? How is it that you sensei can perform Mokuton? Is he a member of your clan? Haku asked as she turned to her friend in surprise and was joined by both Mai and Yujito, who were just as surprised and confused as she was. I wouldn't mind knowing that myself, spoke a new voice. That's ditto for me, yo, said another new voice. Turning to the direction of the two new voices, the group saw that the two new voices belonged to none other than Zabuza and Killer Bee, who suddenly appeared next to the four genin and then joined Yamato in facing against Kabuto and the Sunanines. Unsure of the intention of the two shinobi, Yamato kept his guard up and eyed them carefully. Seeing how tense Yamato was, the demon of the hidden mist smirked behind his mask as he slung his oversized sword over his shoulder. You don't to worry, Mokuton boy, I'm not your enemy today. In fact, it seems that we are on the same side again. The Mizukage has ordered me to help you Konohanins out, which works out pretty well for me. How so? The Mokuton user asked, who was still unsure of the Kiri swordsman. Because I owe that brat over there a debt for saving my life and treating my wounds, Zabuza replied as he pointed his thumb back to Naruto. And I don't like owing debts to anyone, especially to brats like him. After hearing Zabuza's answer, Yamato just nodded, satisfied with the man's answer, since despite his ruthless reputation, Zabuza had code of honor which would require him to repay his debts to people. It also helped given how Haku was here helping Naruto as well, confirming what Zabuza said about them helping Konoha. Excuse me, Zabuza-sama, but how did you know I would be here? Asked Haku, who was curious as to how her teacher knew she would be here. When Chojuro came back and informed me of that crazy redhead's, aka Mei, plan and told me that you took off, I knew that you had gone after the brat here, given how worried you were for him. The masked man answered as he pointed to Naruto again. When Yujito and Mai heard this, both girls looked at the female ice user, who was blushing slightly at how her sensei mentioned that she was worried for Naruto and did her best to hide her blush from everyone. Seeing the blush on Haku's face, both Mai and Yujito raised their right eyebrows in suspicion. Naruto, on the other hand, remained ignorant of the hidden meaning to Zabuza's words and took what he said without any thought. And what of you, B-san, what are your intentions? Yamato asked as he turned to the Kumo Jonin. I'm just being nice, as a friend in need and a friend indeed. Killer Bee rhymed with a cheesy smirk. Cut the crap, sensei, and stop trying to act all cool, Yujito said with annoyance. The only reason you decided to help is because you're hoping that by helping Naruto you'll earn some points with his mother. WWHHATT, yelled Naruto in anger, before turning to glare at the elder Jinchuriki. Hey yo, a man can dream and be, said the dark-skinned man, only to be stopped in mid-sentence by a murderous glare from Naruto, who was also leaking a large amount of killing intent, so much so that even Zabuza was impressed by it. Eventually, though, Naruto began to calm down and took deep calming breaths, knowing that he had other important matters to deal with first. Calm down, Naruto, calm down, the blonde boy thought to himself, while he continued to glare at Killer B, who actually looked a little nervous from the murderous stare the spiky-haired blonde was giving him. Now is not the time. First we deal with Gaara and the invasion, then we kill B-sensei. After he had finally calmed down, Naruto suddenly turned to Yujito, as he had been wondering something ever since she appeared to help him. Not that I don't appreciate the help, Yujito-chan, but won't you, B-sensei and the others be in trouble for getting involved in this fight? I don't think we will have to wonder about that, the blonde girl replied cryptically, making Naruto wonder what she meant. In the stands dash. DDDIE! Yelled one masked Otonin, and he tried to stab his opponent. Only to have his opponent sidestep his stab and to grab his face and slam the poor shinobi head first through a wall, creating a massive hole in it. That takes care of another, murmured the Hokage as he dusted his hands off. This is crazy, said C suddenly as he stood next to his leader and deflected an incoming kunai with his own. Ever since they appeared in the stands, the shinobi of Oto and Suna had been specifically targeting them, forcing the three Kumo shinobi to fight back and defend themselves. Damn that Orochimaru! The Hokage shouted angrily as he smashed his large fist into a Sunanin's face. He's not only targeting Konoha, but us as well. But why? Asked C, who could not understand why the former Sanin forces would attack them as well. He's probably hoping to not only destroy Konoha, but also eliminate the Mizukage and me, weakening both our villages, allowing Suna and the other villages to take advantage of our weakened state and start a war. How can you be so sure? C asked as he blocked yet another kunai which was flying towards the Hokage. It's the only possible explanation as to why they are attacking us, rounded the bulky Kage as kicked an Oto shinobi away and sent him crashing into a nearby Suna shinobi. But what he and the others didn't know was that the reason why the invading shinobi were attacking them was because of Killer B and his team, who decided to help Naruto and his village out and attack the Oto and Suna forces, making the enemy shinobi believe that Kumo was siding with Konoha. See, where are B and the others? A asked, wanting to know where his brother and his team were. Using his sensory skills, the blonde Kumo shinobi quickly located the 5 shinobi. Samui, Omo and Kari are all currently with the daimyo-sama and are protecting him. Bidano and Yujito-san are currently outside the stadium in the village. Damn it, what the hell are those two thinking? They should have stayed here, growled the annoyed Kage. What do we do, boss? Dari asked as he turned to his village leader, after using his large sword to slash at an incoming Otonin. See, I want you to head to Samui and her team and help protect the daimyo-sama. Nodding to the Hokage, the Kumo medic quickly raced off towards the 3 genin and the lightning daimyo. What about me, boss? Dari asked. You stay with me, Dari, the Hokage said as he took off his Kage robes and hat, revealing his hulking build. For now at least, we're fighting with Konoha. If Orochimaru thinks he can eliminate us all in one fell swoop, he is severely underestimating the shinobi of Kumo. After saying this, the muscular Kage exploded with lightning, which covered his entire body and disappeared in a blinding flash, where he proceeded to attack every Suna and Oto shinobi he could see, with Samui and the others dash. Shit, this is insane, why the hell are we even getting involved? Kari asked as he deflected an incoming shuriken with her katana. But as she did, an Oto shinobi moved in on her, and tried to stab her in the chest with his short tanto blade. Only to be stopped by Omoi, who appeared in front of the enemy shinobi and used the bottom of his sword handle to stop the man's attack. This then allowed Kari to jump over Omoi and attack the enemy shinobi on his unguarded side, killing him with one swift slash. We're getting involved because B-sensei told us so, Omoi replied, before leaping into the air and deflecting several incoming kunai that were coming in on them from different directions. So I suggest you stop your complaining and focus on the battle at hand. What did you say, you lollipop-sucking bastard? An angry Kari yelled as she turned to her teammate. Both of you two need to cool down as this is neither the time nor the place for your bickering, Samui reprimanded, as she kicked away a Suna shinobi who tried to sneak up on her. After Samui kicked the enemy shinobi away, both Kari and Omoi ceased their quarreling, realizing that they needed to focus on protecting not only the lightning daimyo, but also Samui, who had still yet to recover from her battle with Haku. Although the blonde girl was not in any serious danger from her injuries, she was still far from 100%, which both her teammates could see. Given how sluggish her movements were and how tried she looked, even though she did her best not show it. Once they had found their common ground again, both Omoi and Karui used their finely honed teamwork to assist their teammate in holding back the enemy and protect the lightning daimyo, with Kakashi and the others as the battle in the stands continued to rage. Kakashi and the other Jonin sensei were still fighting fiercely against the invading shinobi. During the battle, Kakashi and Guy, once again, found themselves back to one another, using their advanced teamwork, which they had developed after all the years they had spent sparring and fighting alongside one another. After knocking out another Otonin with a strong spinning kick, Guy suddenly noticed something in one of the other stands. "Kakashi, look!" Guy called as he pointed to the other stands. "If I'm not mistaken, that's the Mizukage-sama and her bodyguard, and they are attacking the enemy." "You're right, and that's not the only weird thing," said Anko, who suddenly appeared next to the two Jonin and pointed to the stands on the opposite side. "Look over there!" When the two Jonin looked, they were surprised to see the Reikage and his bodyguard Darui, also fighting the Oto and Tsune shinobi. "What the hell is going on here?" muttered the former student of Orochimaru. "Why are the Mizukage-sama, the Reikage-sama, and their people helping us? I would have thought they would have been the first to skip out the moment things went to hell." "I don't know, but let's not look a gift horse in the mouth," said Kakashi as he lifted up his headband to reveal his Sharingan. "With their help, we can clear out the enemy a lot faster and get to the Hokage-sama and the others sooner." Nodding to this reasoning, the two other Jonin took off with Kakashi to find more enemies. With Naruto and the others at the same time, Kabuto, Baki and the other Tsune shinobi became concerned over the arrival of not only the Reikage's brother, the Jinchuriki of the Hachibi, 8 Tails, but also the infamous Kirigakure no Kijin, demon of the hidden mist, Momochi Zabuza and a Konoha shinobi, who seemingly could use Mokuton, just like Naruto. "Another Mokuton user, what's going on here?" Baki asked out loud, who was becoming more frustrated over everything that was happening today. It was bad enough that Naruto revealed the ability to use Mokuton, but now it seemed that there was a second person who had the ability. "Is he related to the boy as well?" "No, he isn't, or at least not in the traditional sense," Kabuto said suddenly with a small frown. "What do you mean?" Baki asked, not understanding what Kabuto talking about. "Not long ago, Orochimaru-sama told me a story back when he was still with Konoha. During that time Orochimaru-sama abducted 60 newborn infants to use for an experiment, which involved injecting the Shodai Hokage-sama's DNA into them, in the hope of replicating the Shodai-sama's ability to use Mokuton, allowing him to suppress and control Biju," Kabuto answered. Sadly though, Orochimaru-sama was unable to see the results of his experiment, as the Sandaime Hokage-sama discovered what he had done and forced Orochimaru-sama to flee, leading him to believe that all the infants had died. "But it seems that is no longer the case, isn't that right, Yamato-san?" Kabuto said with an arrogant smirk, causing Yamato and the others all to frown angrily at the gray-haired youth. "This also certainly explains Naruto-kun's rapid growth and skill in using Mokuton, and I'm certain Orochimaru will also find the news interesting as well. And people call me a demon," Zabuza thought in revulsion, after hearing what the snake Sanin had done. "That's whack, yo," muttered Killer Bee, who frowned at the news. "Naruto-kun, is this true?" asked Haku as she turned to her blonde friend with a look of shock and horror. "It's true," Naruto said while glaring angrily at the still smirking Kabuto, who seemed quite pleased with himself over digging up Yamato's past. Seeing this just made the blonde Senju even angrier, and wanted nothing more than to smash his fists right into the arrogant shinobi's face and send him flying again. "What kind of twisted monster is this Orochimaru?" a disgusted Yujito asked herself. "Even Sofa would not stand for such acts." An appalled Mai thought. "Naruto!" Yamato said suddenly while still staring at Kabuto. "You need to get going, find Sabaku no Gaara and make sure he does not release his Biju. If he is allowed to, he will do immeasurable amount of damage to the village." "But what about you, sensei?" asked Naruto. "I will stay here and prevent them from following you." Not liking the idea of leaving his sensei to fight all these enemies alone, Naruto was about to object. But before he could even say a word, Zabuza suddenly spoke. "You should do what your sensei says, brat, and get going. We'll stay here and back him up." "Besides," said the smirking demon, "it been was while since I've been in a good fight." "We've got your back," said Killer Bee with a smirk and thumbs up, before he took out 2 of his short swords from his back. Seeing that Killer Bee and Zabuza were going to help, Naruto's concerns eased and he took off after Sasuke and Gaara. But as soon as he took off, Kabuto and the Suna shinobi attacked. Acting quickly, Yamato created several more wooden spikes, which erupted from the ground, halted the Suna shinobi advance. All except for Kabuto, who skillfully maneuvered around them and used his Chakura no Mezu to cut through any wooden spikes that remained in his way, much to Yamato's shock. After bypassing Yamato, Kabuto quickly raced after Naruto, with the intent of removing the blonde boy from the equation. Seeing Kabuto moving towards his student, Yamato attempted to intercept the Konoha traitor before he could reach his student. But before he could act, Baki appeared in front of him and attacked him, preventing him from helping the young Senju. Zabuza and Killer Bee couldn't help either, as like Yamato, they were busy fighting with the 12 other Suna shinobi who had maneuvered around the wood user's wooden spikes. After a minute or so, Kabuto caught up to Naruto, but before he could even re-engage him, he was suddenly blown back by a large gust of wind from Mai, who appeared in front of Naruto again, along with Haku and Yujito. After being blown back by Mai's attack, Kabuto quickly channeled some of his chakra into his feet, allowing him to stick to the ground, preventing him from being blown back any further. Naruto-kun, please proceed on. We will deal with Kabuto-san, Haku said, as she stared coldly at the bespectacled teen. Are you serious? A surprised Naruto asked. Haku-chan, either you nor Yujito-chan have recovered fully from your battles and are in no shape to fight again. Don't worry about us, we can take him, Yujito said confidently. You're not listening to me. Naruto rounded, surprising the three girls, with the way he was speaking to them. Kabuto is a lot stronger than he let on in the preliminaries. I could barely touch the bastard when we fought. He's a combat medic like me, and if I were to guess, I would say he was at Jonin level at least and is as good if not better than my Nei-chan. Hell, even my Ka-chan would have a hard time with him. After hearing this, the three girls were left naturally surprised, not expecting to hear this, and they could tell that Naruto was telling the truth, since they could hear the concern in his voice. Hell, well, this certainly makes things interesting, Mai said to herself, with a grin, since it had been a while since she last fought. We appreciate the warning, Naruto-kun, but we will not change our minds, so please go, Haku said stubbornly, while watching Kabuto careful for any sudden movements. But, Naruto tried to say, before he was interrupted by Yujito. Listen, Naruto, you need to get going now, Yujito rounded as she turned to the younger blonde. You're the only one that can stop that psychopath, and if you stay here to fight, you may not get to your friends in time. Knowing that Yujito was right, Naruto gritted his teeth in frustration. Fine, I leave him to you, but take these, you're going to need them, Naruto said. Before he pulled out a small pill bottle from his utility belt, and took out 2 pills from it, and handed them to Yujito and Haku. They're food pills, they should help restore you chakra reserves and allow you both to fight. Nodding their thanks, both girls quickly took the pills, and within seconds they felt their bodies resurge with chakra and energy and were ready to fight again. After giving the girls the food pills, Naruto wished them luck before taking off. Seeing Naruto leaving, a large frown appeared on Kabuto's face, as he needed to capture Naruto before he met up with Gaara. But his current situation presented him with an unexpected opportunity, namely Haku and Mai. Both girls had proven themselves to be highly skilled and capably kunoichi, where even Orochimaru praised their skill. If he could capture them along with Naruto, he knew his master would be very pleased with him. Even if he had to kill them, their bodies could reveal some valuable data. Especially Haku's, who was the last of the Yuki clan and wielded their unique bloodline limit Hayatan, ice release. My, I had heard that Naruto-kun was quite popular with many of the girls here in Konoha. But it seems that he is just as popular with them in other villages as well. In fact, he seems to hang around with quite a lot of cute girls, Kabuto commented with irritating smirk. I'm a little envious. None of the girls of course reacted to Kabuto's comments, and continued to stare at the gray-haired shinobi, waiting for him to make a move. If you don't mind me asking, perhaps you could tell me, which of you is his favorite? The smirking Otonin asked. TSK, that's a stupid question, Mai replied. I'm the obvious choice, especially when compared to these two. Pardon me? Haku asked nicely with a kind smile, all the while a dark murderous aura hung over her, where Kabuto could have sworn he saw the image of a demon in it. What's that supposed to mean? Yujito asked angrily. Hey, isn't it obvious? I'm clearly the best choice, Mai said confidently, as she flipped her ponytail into the air and puffed her chest out, showing over her ample bosom. Besides, I am his fiancée after all. I believe that is debatable, Mai-san, since you are the only one who believes that, Haku retorted with an annoyed look, before turning into an evil-looking smirk. Besides, I believe Naruto-kun said he prefers someone who is not so showy. After Haku said this, a large tick appeared on Mai's head, where she quickly turned to glare at the ice user, knowing what she was really saying. That's pretty big talk coming from someone like you, Ice Princess. At least I have something to show. You're barely above a Patanko. Blushing angrily at the comment regarding her chest size, Haku glared coldly at Mai, and looked ready to kill the granddaughter of Hanzo. But before anything like that could happen, the two girls' attention suddenly turned to Yujito after she said, "That's the only thing you got going for you. You got something to say, Nico girl?" Mai asked angrily as she turned to the Kimoku no Ichi. "You heard me," retorted the blonde girl coldly, and stared at Mai, unafraid. "Ha, I knew you had a thing for my Naruto-kun. I just bet you maneuvered yourself on the ground, just so Naruto-kun would land on top of you," accused Mai. "I did no such thing," screamed the now red-faced Yujito, as the memory and humiliation of what happened at the end of her and Naruto's match was still fresh on her mind. "TSK, like I believe that," scoffed the Aim Kunoichi. "For once I would have to agree with Mai-san, as you clearly made no effort to avoid him or push him off you when he landed on you," Haku commented as she stared suspiciously at the now red Yujito. "I'm not interested in Naruto-kun," yelled the now scarlet Nibi Jinchuriki. "Naruto-kun?" said both Haku and Mai said together, who now shared the same suspicious look. "I didn't mean that, it was an accident," an embarrassed Yujito said quickly, as she couldn't believe that she used kun when she mentioned Naruto. "I don't see him that way, and I couldn't get him off me because I couldn't move my body." "Well, that was convenient," Mai said sarcastically, who didn't believe a word Yujito said. Standing not far from the girl, an amused Kabuto watched as the three kunoichi continued to bicker. Soon after, the three girls stopped arguing and just glared angrily at one another. As Kabuto watched the three-way glaring match, he could see a dark, menacing aura hovering over the three kunoichi. He could even have sworn he saw fire emanate from the three girls' eyes as they stared angrily at one another. "Oh ho ho!" a grinning Kabuto thought. "Could it be that I landed on the proverbial landmine?" At that moment, not that far from the four shinobi, a certain blonde-haired Senju had a sudden bad case of the chills. As if something bad was happening somewhere, and he was involved in it in some way. Deciding to take advantage of the girl's distraction, Kabuto reactivated his chakra scapels and quickly raced forward in an attempt to finish the three kunoichi off quickly. But just as he reached them, the three girls quickly jumped into the air and avoided him, before landing several feet away from him. I guess I was hoping for too much to think that would work," Kabuto muttered to himself. "TSK, sneaky bastard," Mai mumbled before glancing back at her fellow kunoichi. "You two just stay back, I handle him myself." "That would be unwise, Mai-san," Haku warned. "Naruto-kun said that Kabuto was extremely dangerous and should not be underestimated." "I can handle him myself, you two would only get in my way," Mai scoffed, before she raised one of her hand-sized fans and yelled, "Futon, Kyofu, wind style, strong wind," creating a massive blast of wind. 2. When the wind attack hit him, Kabuto shielded his face with his arms and channeled some of his chakra to his feet, allowing him to stick to the ground. But even with this, the gray-haired shinobi struggled to hold his ground due to the strength of the blast, as he was pushed back a few feet and received several cuts on his arms and legs. After the attack ended, and as soon as Kabuto lowered his arms, Mai suddenly appeared kneeling right in front of him and tried to slash his stomach open with the spikes that appeared on the tips of her right-hand fan. Acting fast, Kabuto quickly jumped back and narrowly avoided the deadly slash, where only his shirt was cut, leaving a long horizontal slash across his shirt. As soon as Kabuto avoided her attack, Mai moved forward and attacked with her two fans, which now both had spikes on their tips, and attempted to slash the Konoha trader again. But when she tried, Kabuto skillfully avoided her slashes and then kicked her left-handed fan out of her hand and jumped back a few feet. Undeterred, Mai continued to go on the offensive and took out and threw two kunai at the gray-haired teen, who avoided the projectiles before racing up to the aimed kunoichi and slamming his hand in the middle of the girl's chest with his chakra no mezu, disrupting her breathing and pushing her away, as well as causing her to drop her other fan. As she flew through the air, the injured Mai quickly formed several hand seals and thought, "Katan, Ryu no Hoko, fire style, dragon's roar," as she expelled a massive stream of fire from her mouth. Within seconds, the large stream of fire enveloped the Oto spy, who was shocked by how quickly Mai had been able to counterattack after he injured her. "Hey, he wasn't that tough," the granddaughter of Hanzo thought with a painful smirk, as she was still having some trouble breathing, thanks to Kabuto's attack. But before she could congratulate herself any further, a pair of glowing arms appeared out of the ground underneath her and grabbed hold of her legs, weakening her muscles. Damn it, cursed Mai, as she fell to the ground, realizing she had been duped. Once Mai hit the ground, a smirking Kabuto quickly appeared out of the ground and pushed up his glasses. I have to say, I'm rather impressed with fighting ability and can see why Orochimaru-sama praises your skill, commented Kabuto. But still, I'm afraid you are not quite at my level just yet. Just as the gray-haired youth was about to deliver the final blow, he suddenly saw several flaming hairballs flying towards him, forcing him to jump away. After forcing Kabuto away from Mai, Yujito quickly appeared in front of the aim girl, acting as a shield between her and Kabuto, who landed not far the two girls. But moments after his feet touched the ground, Kabuto suddenly felt a sudden chill in their air. When he turned around, the gray-haired teen saw a large ice mirror appear behind him, which Haku emerged from and stabbed him in his lower back with some saban needles. But as soon as she did this, Kabuto turned into a wooden log, revealing that he replaced himself and more than likely did it as soon as he felt the chill in the air. Realizing that she had missed her opponent, Haku quickly moved over to where Yujito and Mai were, and immediately used her needles to treat the damage that was done to her legs. At the same time, Kabuto reappeared in front of the three girls and began to reevaluate his situation, while Yujito eyed him careful, to make sure he didn't try anything. Heh, so much for handling it yourself, remarked Yujito with slight sneer. Shut it, Nico girl, rounded Mai, who was in no mood to deal Yujito, wanting nothing more than to pay Kabuto back for her humiliation. Given Kabuto-san's advanced skill level, I believe it would be in all our best interests if we put our difference aside, for now at least, and work together to defeat Kabuto-san. Wouldn't you agree, Mai-san? Asked Haku as she treated Mai's legs. For a moment Mai said nothing, but eventually after much thought the young kunoichi spoke. Fine, we'll work together, but don't blame me if you get in the way and get yourself killed, as I have no intention of holding back. Funny, I was just about to say the same thing to you, Yujito replied with a confident smirk, which Mai returned. Then we are in agreement, said Haku, with a pleased look, even though she wasn't exactly thrilled with the idea of working with Mai. She willing to put her problems with the aim girl aside for now, since she knew she had bigger problems to deal with. Zabuza had taught her long ago that shinobi should try not to take things personally, since sometimes your life may depend on working with a former enemy to defeat a common enemy, who is stronger than both of you. Shortly after, Mai was once again back on her feet, and together the three girls prepared to take on the right-hand man of Orochimaru, who frowned when he saw them like this. It seems things have gotten more problematic, Kabuto thought, knowing that with the three girls now working together, it would make defeating them that more difficult and time-consuming. Not wanting to waste any more time than he already had, Kabuto quickly raced towards the three teens, who immediately did the same and recommenced their battle. With Naruto after leaving Kabuto to his three female friends, Naruto made his way through the village hoping to find his friends. As he jumped across the buildings that were damaged from previous fighting, Naruto used a healing jutsu to treat his remaining injuries from his battle with Kabuto. But once he got over the wall, he found he could not find any tracks or evidence that would tell him where his friends or the Otonins went. Realizing he needed help, Naruto bit his finger and preformed several hand seals before placing his hand on the ground and yelling, Kuchios no Jutsu, summoning technique, causing a large cloud of smoke to appear. Once the smoke dissipated, a small orange toad was revealed. Yo Naruto, what's up? Been a while, greeted the small toad. Hey Gamakichis, look, I really need your help, Naruto said quickly, having no time for pleasantries. What's up? I thought you summoned me to play, since I haven't been summoned for ages, Gamakichi complained. I've been stuck looking after Gamatatsu, with no one else to play with, and you don't even bother to give me any snacks. Look, I'm sorry Gamakichi, I'll make it up to you later, I promise, but I really need your help, it's an emergency. What do you need me for? The small toad asked, since he wasn't much of a fighter. I need your help in finding my friends. They took off after another friend of mine who is after this crazy Suna shinobi, and they are being chased by a large group of enemy shinobi. Okay, fine, I'll help. But once this is all over, you have to summon me more often and double the amounts of snacks you usually give me. Done, Naruto said quickly, knowing that he had no time to argue with the orange toad and needed to get to his friends fast. So can you find them? Give me a second, replied Gamakichi as he began to sniff the air, since Toad had a strong sense of smell. 3. Okay, I got the scent of a large group of people all heading in that direction, Gamakichi said, where he pointed west. Great, said Naruto before he quickly picked up the little toad and placed him on his head so that he could keep up with Naruto and inform him of any change in directions. With Sasuke and the others for several minutes, Sasuke raced through the Konoha forest after the Tsunade siblings, in an attempt to prevent them from escaping. Eventually he started to gain ground. Given how Temari and Kankuro were slowed down from carrying Gaara. As he grew closer, he met with Temari, who had stayed behind to stall the Uchiha, but was unable to do so for long, as Sasuke proved to be too much for her to handle, especially given her weakened state. Before Sasuke could finish her off, Kankuro appeared after turning back to help his sister, and told her to take Gaara away and threat his injuries while he held Sasuke off. But before their battle could begin, Shino interceded, telling Sasuke to go after Gaara and Temari while he dealt with Kankuro. Taking the young Aburame's offer, Sasuke maneuvered past Kankuro and continued after Gaara and Temari and eventually caught up with them and faced off with Gaara again, who had recovered from his injury. But before they could recommence with their battle, Gaara began to wither in pain and then transform. When the transformation ended, Sasuke was horrified to see that the upper right half side of Gaara's body and changed into a demonic form, where the boy barely looked even human anymore. Recovering from his shock, Sasuke immediately defended himself from the mad boy's attacks. But despite his best efforts, the young Uchiha proved to be no match for the partially transformed Gaara, who easily blocked all the raven-haired boy's attacks and forced him to hide. Even Sasuke's trump card, the Chidori, proved to be unable to end crazed Jinchuriki, where he was only able to damage him slightly. In fact, all it really did was excite the boy and made him become even more bloody thirsty and accelerated his transformation, where he grew a massive tail and attacked. As the battle continued, Sasuke's attacks started to weaken, realizing that he had used the Chidori too much and was running low on chakra. Sasuke tried to conserve his remaining chakra and fought using his kunai and shuriken. But these soon proved to be useless, where Gaara began to taunt Sasuke, stating that his hatred was weak and that he should run away like the coward he was. When the Uchiha heard this, his boil began to boil, causing Orochimaru's curse seal to activate, where its markings began to spread throughout his body. Gathering what chakra he could, Sasuke channeled it into his left hand and used it to form one last Chidori, which he used it to deal a serious injury to Gaara, causing his right arm to revert back into its normal form. But this victory was short-lived, as Gaara's left arm quickly changed into the same long demonic arm as the right. Also, the effects of using the curse seal and using most of his chakra finally took its toll on Sasuke, causing him to collapse on the large tree branch he was standing on. Seeing that his opponent was unable to move, Gaara leapt towards the young Konoha genin, with the intent of killing the elder boy. But just as he was about to deliver the final blow, he was stopped by an hail of kunai and shuriken, forcing him to halt his attack and move away to a nearby tree branch. When Gaara looked towards Sasuke, he was angered to see that the ones who had stopped his attack had been Ino and Sakura, who had finally reached them in time to save Sasuke and were sitting next to him to see how injured the boy was. The two girls were also accompanied by Pakken, but were without Shikamaru, who had stayed back when they realized that they were still being followed by the Odo shinobi that had been chasing them earlier. When the girls finally took full notice of Gaara, like Sasuke, they were horrified to see the Tsunade boy's new form. Angered by how he was robbed of his prize by such weaklings, Gaara let loose an inhuman roar of rage, which woke the girls up from the frozen state, allowing them to jump in time to safety with Sasuke. When Gaara attacked, for the next few minutes the two girls and the dog spent their time dodging Gaara's enraged attacks, knowing that one hit could be fatal. With Sakura busy carrying Sasuke, Ino was the only one capable of attacking, but even then there was little she could do, as no matter how many kunai and shuriken she threw, the crazed boy would block them all with his demonic arm and fire them right back at them. She couldn't even use her Shintenshin no Jutsu, mind-body switch technique, as Gaara allowed her no opportunity to even try, with his relentless attacks. Eventually Ino's luck finally ran out, as Gaara finally managed to hit her with his large demonic arm and sent her crashing into a nearby tree. It was only thanks to the quick reactions of the brave dog Pakken, who pushed her into a nearby branch as she fell, that saved her from falling to the ground and possibly to her death. Seeing Gaara take out her friend, Sakura quickly placed Sasuke down on the branch she was standing on and brought her kunai up and bravely held her ground to protect Sasuke. But despite her brave act, she was easily dealt with, where the mad Jinchuriki who grabbed hold of her with his long demonic arm and slammed her into the tree behind her, knocking her out and pinning her to the trunk of the tree with one move. Realizing the danger they were in, Sasuke struggled to get up, but his body refused to do so. Damn it, we're finished! Sasuke thought angrily, as he couldn't believe that it was all going to end here. It will take nothing short of a miracle to save us now! Now that he had finally dealt with the annoyances, Gaara prepared to finish Sakura off, and planned to deal with Ino and Pakken next. Leaving Sasuke last, so that could save her killing him, after all the pain he had caused him. Hidden in the trees, a terrified Temari could only watch in horror as her younger brother transformed more and more into the monster that had haunted her nightmares for most of her life. Knowing that there was nothing she could do, for as far as she was concerned, the three genin were as good as dead, no one could stop Gaara now. But just as Gaara was about to deliver the fatal blow to Sakura and end her life, a large crescent-shaped blade of wind appeared and severed Gaara's demonic hand from the rest of his arm. After which Gaara was sent flying backwards into a large tree several meters away, courteous of a powerful kick to the face from a yellow blur, which suddenly appeared in front of him. After crashing into the tree, Gaara raised his head to see who had kicked him. When he looked up, he was surprised to see that the person was none other than Naruto, who was now standing next to the injured Sasuke and in front of the now knocked out Sakura, with a serious look on his face, despite having a toad on his head, as he held his katana forward. Looks like I just made it.